Chapter 410. After Yang Qing saw Wang Lin, he contacted Lin Feng through the sound transmission crystal. Lin Feng was relieved to know that he had arrived safely. The problem with Yang Qing's cultivation was that his state of mind was unable to truly calm down. The destruction of the Cloudy Water Cave and the glory of Xianmen Tianzong were under a lot of pressure, which made Yang Qing, who had a weak state of mind, very worried. On one hand, he was worried about the destruction of the Cloudy Water Cave, but he didn't even know who the enemy was. There was no way for him to take revenge. Anger and guilt had always been entrenched in his heart. On the other hand, as a direct disciple of Lin Feng, he was surrounded by heaven-defying geniuses like Xiao Yan, Shi Tianhao, Zhu Yi, and Wang Lin. This also made Yang Qing feel a lot of pressure. He was afraid that he would embarrass Xianmen Tianzong and Lin Feng and be laughed at by outsiders for not recognizing people well. Under the heavy pressure, Yang Qing felt like there were many shackles on his body, and the burden on his heart was getting heavier and heavier. Lin Feng saw this problem, so he sent him to Wang Lin's place to experience the life of an ordinary person with Wang Lin. He tried to figure out the concept of returning to the natural state and being as calm as water to calm his anxiety. Yang Qing's foundation and comprehension were very high. In his current cultivation realm, as long as he cultivated properly, there was no difficulty. The only thing that restricted his growth was his mind and will. As long as he could calm his mind, condensing a pill cauldron was as easy as lifting a finger. On the other hand, Wang Lin was currently trying to oppose the two states of mind, returning to the natural state and the murderous state at the same time. If he could pass this hurdle, he might even be able to reach a higher level in his cultivation. He could try to pass the Yin Fire Tribulation and reach the middle stage of the Golden Elixir realm. However, this was destined to be a difficult and long process. Lin Feng cut off the communication with Yang Qing and returned his attention to the matter at hand. He had extracted all of Kun Yu's memories from his divine soul, so he definitely knew more about the Kunpeng's secret treasure than Gao Fan. Lin Feng temporarily kept Kunyue Patriarch's Yuanying and Dharma form. He wasn't in a hurry to refine it into a false god. He thought to himself, by this year's summer solstice, the Yang Qi of the Arctic Ice Sea will gradually disappear, and the Yin Qi will prevail. Even if I have the power of true fire and true water, I'm afraid I won't be able to break the 1,000-year-old black ice. Without further ado, I'd better go and take out the hidden treasure of Kunpeng first. The inheritance of an immortal monster's soul tier 3 great demon monster must be very powerful, right? Lin Feng thought for a moment. However, I've only captured one of Kunyue's avatars. There's still his main body that I haven't captured. The main body knows everything that happened with the avatar. He must be thinking of revenge after suffering such a huge loss. I need to be careful of this monster. But I'm looking forward to him coming to me. Lin Feng smiled. After interrogating Ancestor Kunyu's avatar, Lin Feng learned that this person had indeed obtained a portion of the Dark Beast Mingdu's inheritance. But it wasn't complete. He had accidentally stumbled into a dimensional realm and obtained it. What interested Lin Feng was that according to Kunyue Patriarch, the aborigines of that dimensional space were some kind of monster race, and they had a complete dark beast skeleton. For Lin Feng, this dark beast skeleton was even more attractive than the Kunpeng's secret treasure. In the 6 paths of life and death of Yin and Yang formation, there was a transformation called the change of light and darkness. If Lin Feng could get the dark beast skeleton, he could use it as the core source of the dark power in the change of light and darkness. Just like the purple chi in the sky corresponded to heaven, and the central earth divine light corresponded to earth. When the two were combined, the change of heaven and earth would be fully displayed. The life sealing stone corresponded to life, and the death chi corresponded to death. When the two were combined, the change of life and death would erupt with amazing power. Although Lin Feng did not know whether the dark beast skeleton could achieve the desired goal, it was undoubtedly very attractive to him. However, Kunyue Patriarch had accidentally entered that dimensional space. As for where it was hidden in the space turbulence, he could not give a clear answer. Without a specific location, even if he had great abilities, he could not find the place. Fortunately, Lin Feng learned from this avatar that Kuan Yu's main body possessed a treasure that could guide people to that dimensional realm. Therefore, Lin Feng was now looking forward to that bird-faced fish-head old geezer coming to settle the score with him. However, when Lin Feng set foot on the Arctic Ice Sea, his mood instantly became bad. Even though it was vast in the past, the cold and silent Arctic Ice Sea was right now like the open-air swimming pools of Lin Feng's past life. Waves of mana fluctuations and auras were everywhere, countless cultivators were squeezed here, like dumplings falling into a pot. The little Shirtianhao looked at this scene with his mouth agape. Didn't they say that the Arctic Ice Sea is vast and quiet? Why are there so many people? Lin Feng secretly twitched the corner of his mouth. After thinking for a while, he already knew what was going on. The news of the Kunpeng's secret treasure was not widely spread in the Divine Land. Those who knew about it, even if they could not take it out for the time being, would keep it a secret to prevent others from taking it out. After all, although the 7 great true fires and Taiyin true water were extremely rare, the world was big, and there were always people who could control them. For example, the Golden Crow Sage, who was killed by Lin Feng previously, had the true fire of the sun. If he knew about it, he would have come to the Arctic Ice Sea to take the treasure. But now, it was clear that someone deliberately spread the news on a large scale. As a result, a large group of people came to the Arctic Ice Sea to try their luck. The person who spread the news clearly did not clearly state the conditions for taking out the Kunpeng's secret treasure, so all the big fish, small fish, and even small fish came to the Arctic Ice Sea. The person's ultimate goal was to muddy the waters and hinder those who really had the ability to take the treasure. Lin Feng did not have to think with his knees to know that the person who did this must be ancestral Master Kuan Yu. There was no doubt that his goal was actually Lin Feng. Lin Feng already had the Kunpeng scale to pinpoint the exact location of the Kunpeng's secret treasure, and the true fire could break the ice. On this basis, he could capture ancestral Master Kuan Yu's clone, which had the Kunpeng's bloodline, and obtain the real opportunity to go deep into the Kunpeng's secret treasure. It could be said that Lin Feng was the most likely person to get the Kunpeng's secret treasure. In fact, as soon as Lin Feng picked up Zhu Yi, he immediately rushed to the Arctic Ice Sea. After ancestral Master Kuan Yu suffered a great loss, he asked around and found out about Lin Feng's background. If he did not act, the Kunpeng's secret treasure would definitely fall into Lin Feng's hands. Ancestral Master Kuan Yu was also a decisive person. He definitely could not beat Lin Feng in a fight, so he might as well use the method of mutual destruction. At this moment, although the Arctic Ice Sea was bustling, there were actually only a drop in the bucket. It was just that the people who were geographically closer to the Arctic Ice Sea had arrived first. Most of the people who had received the news were actually still on their way here. This was also why Lin Feng immediately rushed over. Ancestral Master Kuan Yu had just spread the news. If he was a little later, it would be even more bustling. At the very least, Lin Feng had not found any traces of the primordial soul realm bull. However, with the flying speed of a primordial soul realm cultivator, it would not take too long for him to rush over immediately after receiving the news. With Yujing Mountain here, if Lin Feng really wanted to crush his way through, unless there was a third-tier primordial soul realm expert, everyone else would have to obediently give way. However, that would be too domineering, but it would attract too much hatred. Unless a person really had the ability to crush the entire world single-handedly, he would only be asking for trouble if he became the public enemy. Of course, Lin Feng hoped that he could reach the top of the world. However, before he truly possessed such great strength, he still had to pay attention to strategy. Thinking of ancestral Master Kuan Yu, who had caused trouble for him, Lin Feng sneered inwardly. Why not do things that benefit others and myself? It's not that I can't do things that benefit others, but if I do things that harm others without benefiting myself, then there must be something wrong with my brain. Kuan Yu, you old fool, do your parents know that you are so wicked? Lin Feng could guess what ancestral Master Kuan Yu was thinking. He was just stirring up trouble and taking the opportunity to fish in troubled waters. Apart from not being able to break the 10,000-year mystic ice, ancestral Master Kuan Yu's advantage in the Kunpeng's secret treasure was the same as Lin Feng's. If Lin Feng insisted on breaking the ice and obtaining the treasure, he would definitely be obstructed by everyone. When both sides were in a stalemate, Ancestral Master Kuan Yu would have an opportunity to take advantage of. On the contrary, if Lin Feng retreated and gave up the opportunity to obtain the treasure this year, Ancestral Master Kuan Yu would have more time to plan. To this bird-faced fish-head old fool, the worst outcome would not be worse than Lin Feng taking away the Kuan Peng's secret treasure without saying a word. Lin Feng pondered for a moment and revealed a warm smile. Old fool, you don't know that I've been waiting for you to deliver yourself to me. Shi Tianhao, Tunten, Zhuge Fengling and the others beside him all had worried looks on their faces. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan also frowned slightly. Lin Feng smiled and called them over, explaining the cause of the matter clearly. Tunten immediately yelled in exasperation, "Isn't this guy too much?" Zhu Yi raised his brows and said silently, "Harming others doesn't benefit himself. He doesn't want us to be unable to obtain what he can't obtain." Shi Tianhao sneered. "Master, let's break the North Sea for him and not rush to obtain the treasure. Let's hide in the side first. The others don't have the Kuan Peng bloodline, so they can't really open the secret treasure. Without the mystic ice, that old bird will have the ability to obtain the treasure. I want to see if he can endure it. At that time, it won't be up to him to decide who is the fisherman." Lin Feng smiled. No hurry, no hurry. Let's find this guy first and deal with him. We can slowly explore the Kuan Peng's secret treasure after that." Tunten asked, "How do we find him?" Lin Feng gazed towards the noisy Arctic Sea, saying, "Even though a lot of people have already gathered here, they are all on guard against each other. They will definitely keep a distance from other people. The fortune here is vast and it's more than 10,000 miles wide. There is only one entrance to the Kuan Peng's secret treasure. This means that most people are just working blindly. They won't have a share in the secret treasure and will at most create obstacles for us. Kuan Yu will definitely be able to accurately locate the entrance of the secret treasure. If he wants to take advantage of us, he will definitely hide near the entrance and monitor us. We can find him there." Chapter 411. The Arctic Ice Sea, which used to be quiet and desolate in the past, was now bustling with noise and excitement. Streams of powerful aura rose and fell as they diligently explored this world of ice and snow. They kept a certain distance from each other, but there were frequent conflicts and conflicts. Most of the cultivators who were active in the Arctic Ice Sea were natives or belonged to forces close to the Arctic Ice Sea. They often met each other, and many of them had old grudges against each other. Now that they were all here for the Kuan Peng's treasure, their past conflicts were more likely to erupt. They couldn't determine where the entrance to the Kuan Peng's treasure was located in the Arctic Ice Sea, but they all subconsciously moved toward the center of the ice sea. An old man who looked a little slovenly walked out of the void and kept pinching his fingers to calculate. He murmured, "I'm afraid it's not in the center. It should be in this area, but the Arctic Ice Sea is too big. Even I can't find the specific location." He calculated for a while and scratched his head in distress. He waved his sleeve, and a dozen people landed on the ground. These people had different levels of cultivation. The higher ones were in the golden elixir period, and the lower ones were only in the Qi refinement stage. The Qi refinement stage cultivator landed on the ice sea and immediately shivered from the cold. He hurriedly took out a talisman and spread out a mellow wave of magic power. Only then did he feel warm. A few foundation establishment stage cultivators also took out their talismans to resist the cold. Even the golden elixir period cultivators did the same. They could resist the extreme cold with their magic power, but it would consume a lot of magic power. After a long time, their magic power would be exhausted, and they would eventually freeze to death on the ice sea. Therefore, they all took out their talismans to resist the cold and preserve their magic power. If they encountered danger or battle, they would have enough magic power to deal with it. These cultivators all bowed to the old man. "Master!" Regardless of their level of cultivation, they were all the old man's disciples. This old man was called Ancestor He Tuesday. He was a Yuanying individual cultivator who was proficient in the art of formations. He traveled to the south of the ice sea with his disciples and accidentally heard about the Kuan Peng's treasure. Therefore he came to try his luck. The Kunpeng secret chamber was hidden under the thousand-year black ice, and its position was hard to determine. However, the secret chamber itself was transformed by the last power of the Kunpeng before its death, and was used to preserve its skeleton. The changes of the power in it were equivalent to a complicated and unique magic formation. Patriarch He too was proficient in the art of formations, so he had a unique understanding of the complex changes of formations. He had seen tens of thousands of formations. After arriving at the Arctic ice sea, he carefully sensed the flow of spiritual qi under the glacier, and more or less found some clues. However, he didn't have any solid clues. It was impossible for him to find the exact location of the Kunpeng's secret chamber with his bare hands. However, the old man was in a good state of mind. He wasn't in a hurry. He would just take it as bringing his disciples out for more training. Therefore, he released all his disciples and said, "Although the secret treasure of Kunpeng is good, it is my fortune to get it and my fate to lose it. You don't have to be too attached to it. Just take it as a training for yourselves. Use what I have taught you in the past. Experience it on the spot and figure it out carefully. Maybe one of you will be lucky enough to find the location of the hidden treasure?" His disciples answered one after another, "Yes, Master." They immediately began to ponder and carefully sensed the changes of the spiritual qi under the glacier and in the air. After sending his disciples out, Patriarch He too didn't stay idle. He continued to study the spiritual qi, and at the same time he secretly paid attention to the movements in the surroundings in case someone came looking for trouble. Although his cultivation was high, he didn't use his magic power to protect his disciples from the cold. In that case, with his magic power as a barrier, these disciples wouldn't be able to sense the flow of spiritual qi in the surrounding environment. In the crowd, a cultivator in the qi refining stage shivered. After all, his cultivation was low. Although he had a talisman to expel the cold, he still felt very cold, so he took out another talisman from his pocket. Seeing this, a young man beside him frowned slightly. "Don't waste talismans. We don't know how long we have to stay on this glacier. There are strong cultivators everywhere. If something happens, Master won't have time to take care of us. We have to rely on ourselves. One more talisman means one more thing to rely on." This young man wasn't old. His facial features were handsome, and his eyes were bright and full of expression. However, his expression was rigid and meticulous, making him look quite mature. When the qi refining stage cultivator heard this, he became angry out of humiliation. "Li Yuanfang, you're in the foundation building realm now. Of course you can make sarcastic remarks." What he said was actually quite unreasonable. Everyone present was conserving their magic power and using talismans to keep themselves warm. Both he and Li Yuanfang were formation cultivators. The difference in physical strength between the qi refining stage and the foundation building stage wasn't big. Without using their magic power, the cold they felt was the same. Li Yuanfang wasn't angry. Silently, he said, "I feel more cold than you because I control the speed at which the magic power of the talisman spreads. Your talisman can still last for 12 hours and a quarter, while mine can last for 16 hours. The qi refining stage cultivator's face was a bit red. "Are you showing off to me?" He and Li Yuanfang were both disciples of ancestor He too, who entered the sect relatively late. Their cultivation levels were originally similar, but Li Yuanfang recently succeeded in building his foundation and suddenly surpassed him. Li Yuanfang was still very calm. "I'm just doing it for your own good. A dam of 1,000 miles can collapse because of an ant's nest. Small negligence accumulates and becomes a big disaster." One of the golden elixir period cultivators next to them frowned and said, "Both of you, shut up and deduce the formation. Don't talk about useless things." These words were obviously biased. Although he was reprimanding both of them at the same time, it was more directed at Li Yuanfang. The qi refining stage cultivator said loudly, "Yes, eldest senior brother." After saying that, he looked at Li Yuanfang proudly. Li Yuanfang nodded calmly and didn't say anything. He just looked at the formation drawn on the ice by the golden elixir period cultivator. The eldest senior brother narrowed his eyes. "What? Junior brother Li, do you have anything else to say?" Li Yuanfang's expression didn't change. Silently, he said, "Eldest senior brother, the 4th and 7th runes on your formation are reversed, and the 13th rune is drawn incorrectly." Everyone around rolled their eyes, showing an expression that said, "As expected." Although this Li Yuanfang entered the sect late, he was very talented in formations, so he was deeply favored by Ancestor He Tuesday. However, this person had many shortcomings. One of them was that he was strict and serious, but to put it bluntly, he was nitpicky. Li Yuanfang was a person who liked to be serious and was a perfectionist. If that was all, it wouldn't be a big deal, but what was even more unacceptable was that not only was he strict with himself, but he also pointed out other people's mistakes without any politeness, not leaving the slightest face for others. At first, his fellow disciples thought that he was purposely showing off because he was arrogant and prideful because of his talent. However, there was one time when he obtained a formation diagram drawn by his master, Patriarch He too, in the past when his cultivation was relatively low, and he bluntly pointed out a mistake in it in front of everyone. All of his fellow disciples were instantly speechless. They finally understood that this person wasn't arrogant because of his talent, but he was completely ignorant of the ways of the world. However, his temper just happened to be to Ancestor He too's liking. After a short moment of shock, Ancestor He too laughed heartily. So at this moment, facing the eldest senior brother whose face was as red as a shrimp, everyone's eyes were full of sympathy. They subconsciously adjusted their positions and used their bodies to block the formation they had drawn. Li Yuanfang's expression was still calm, while his eldest senior brother stared at him with a pair of ox eyes. In his heart, he had already cursed all 8 generations of Li Yuanfang's ancestors. "If it weren't for Master protecting you, I would have taught you a lesson." Some people looked at the eldest senior brother gloatingly. "Who asked you to have a dirty mouth? You just had to provoke that annoying guy. You're looking for trouble, aren't you?" Ancestor He too appreciated Li Yuanfang's talent, but he also knew that with this kind of character, he would easily be at a disadvantage. Not to mention outsiders, even his fellow disciples couldn't stand him. Although Ancestor He too could protect him, even if the disciples didn't dare to really take revenge, they would inevitably exclude him in private. So when Ancestor He too taught Li Yuanfang Taoism, he also warned him to correct this habit. Now, when Li Yuanfang saw his fellow disciples making mistakes when drawing the formation, he would keep silent most of the time. But everyone had their own pride, especially those who had joined the sect earlier than him and whose cultivation was higher than his. They always believed that they didn't make any mistakes. But most of the time, they were slapped in the face by Li Yuanfang just like just now. A group of people was watching the show when they suddenly heard Master He too say, "Everyone, be quiet." Everyone came back to their senses and looked in the direction of Ancestor He too's gaze. After a long time, they saw several rays of light, some red and some blue, flying over their heads. "They're from the Tianqi sect," Ancestor He too said slowly. Li Yuanfang and the others were all nervous when they heard that. Because the Arctic ice sea was too desolate, there were no particularly large cultivation forces there, and the Tianqi sect was the closest sect to this place geographically. The Tianqi sect had always been domineering. They hadn't found the specific location of the Kunpeng's secret treasure yet, but once they found it, it was very likely that they would clear the area. Ancestor He too said, "Don't worry about others. Just mind your own business." The formation derived from the Kunpeng's secret treasure is extremely complicated and mysterious. As long as you can understand a thing or two about it, this trip will be worthwhile. Everyone agreed in unison, but most of them were thinking about how powerful they would be if they could get the Kunpeng's secret treasure and obtain the inherited magic arts and power. Their whole lives would be turned upside down. However, Li Yuanfang didn't think so much. He deeply agreed with his master He too's order and just focused on figuring out the changes in the nearby spiritual qi. Suddenly, a dragon roar resounded in the ice land. Ancestor He too and the others looked toward the distant sky in surprise. Most of the cultivators on the Arctic ice sea also looked up at the sky in surprise. There, a huge crack appeared in the space, and a huge black dragon stuck its head out. On its huge head sat a purple-robed scholar and a purple-robed, red-haired girl. Most people didn't know who they were, but someone from the Tianqi sect looked at them carefully for a moment and his expression changed. They're from Xianmen Tianzong. Chapter 412. Some of the cultivators from the Celestial Pool sect had participated in the Wilderness Sea Assembly before, so they immediately recognized that the two people sitting on the Black Dragon's head were Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. The Black Dragon's huge body emerged from the crack in space, followed by a giant beast the size of a hill. It was gray all over, had no horns, and only one leg. It looked like a cow. A handsome young man sat on the head of the giant beast. His black hair hung loosely behind him, his skin was as white as jade, and his big eyes were rolling around. After being exposed by the cultivators from the Celestial Pool sect, everyone knew that the person in front of them was a member of Xianmen Tianzong. At the sight of the young man, everyone knew that he was the famous young expert of Xianmen Tianzong, Shi Tianhao. In the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, among all the disciples under Lin Feng, Shi Tianhao had the most outstanding performance. He surpassed an entire realm and killed the Yu family's patriarch, Yu Shiling, who was in the Middle Yuaning realm with a cultivation of Middle Golden Elixir realm, which blinded everyone. Some people were full of praise, while others questioned whether he had achieved this with the help of Master Lin Feng. However, there was no doubt that the young man had really shocked the world this time. Even primordial soul Dao masters had to take him seriously. The young man sitting on the head of the Kuei Bull King was Shi Tianhao. Besides him, there were two girls, one older and one younger, sitting beside him. The older one was about 18 or 19 years old. She was curiously looking at the endless ice sea below. A golden mouse was lying on her shoulder. It was also carefully looking at the Arctic ice sea below with its ears pricked up. The younger one was about the same age as Shi Tianhao. She was only 11 or 12 years old. At this time, she was sitting there in a daze with her hands resting on her cheeks. She looked bored, but her eyes were also moving gently. No one knew what she was thinking. Naturally, Zhuge Fengling and Jun Zining were with Shi Tianhao. The three of them sat on top of King Kuei-Nyo's head and followed behind Black Dragon Jieyu. They passed through the void and arrived at the Arctic Ice Sea. As soon as Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others showed up, the cultivators nearby were in an uproar. It was not only because Xianmen Tianzong had been in the limelight recently, but also because these cultivators had heard the rumor that Xianmen Tianzong would come to the Arctic Ice Sea to obtain the hidden treasures of Kunpeng. The group of people had been searching for the Kunpeng's treasury for a long time, but they still couldn't find the right way. Now that they saw Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, their eyes suddenly lit up, as if they had seen the guiding light. Although the rumored terrifying master of Xianmen Tianzong was not present, the lineup of Xianmen Tianzong was no small matter. Two monster kings, two heaven-defying geniuses whose combat power was comparable to that of the Yuanying stage. It was equivalent to 4 Yuanying stage cultivators huddling together. Afraid of this power, the surrounding people did not dare to make any excessive moves, but they all followed behind Zhu Yi and the others, hoping to rely on them to find the right way to the entrance of the Kunpeng's treasury. Over time, the forces and cultivators behind Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao increased, gradually forming a torrent, following Zhu Yi and the others from afar, like a school of sharks in the sea that smelled blood. At this moment, everyone temporarily stopped fighting and silently followed Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao's footsteps. No matter how many conflicts they had in the past, after the bloody battle just now, they temporarily put it aside. Even if the other party was not far away from them, they ignored them. The desire for the Kunpeng's treasury had overwhelmed everything at this moment. After hesitating for a while, Ancestor He too also followed with his disciples. However, the more he walked, the more he felt that something was wrong. They are going to the center of the ice sea. Could it be that my previous speculation was wrong? It shouldn't be. Jieyu and Kuei-Nyo King flew side by side in the air. Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, who were sitting on them, looked at each other from a distance, and both smiled. In the area where Patriarch He too was just now, in another area about 1,000 miles away, the void suddenly split open, and a little girl who looked to be only 5 or 6 years old, with a fair complexion and a bit of baby fat on her face, walked out from within. The girl's hair was tied into 2 pigtails. Her large eyes rolled around as she looked at the icy plains that had regained its calmness. She grinned and said, "It's really different to have an additional skill. This time, I've gotten lucky." The girl was naturally the little Tautai Tunten in human form. She clapped her hands, and suddenly a golden flame appeared in her palms. It constantly flickered like a small sun, and dazzling golden needles emerged from it. Tunten had successfully passed the lightning tribulation and formed a demon nascent soul, returning to the early demon king cultivation of infinite wasteland. With the increase in cultivation, the true sunfire that could be controlled was naturally more powerful. The golden flames landed on the ice, and the ice began to melt rapidly. The golden needle-like true sunfire constantly exploded, destroying the ice. The outer ice layer was melted by the true sunfire in an instant, but the lower it went, the slower the ice melted, and the colder the air became. Tunten's eyebrows furrowed. Good heavens, this is mysterious ice. No wonder it can even freeze space and time. It's really the coldest thing in the world. Even the Xianming true water and the 9 underworld wind are nothing compared to it. The mysterious ice that covered tens of thousands of miles of the Arctic ice sea was so huge that it was difficult to count. When they gathered together, the cold air produced was naturally extremely powerful. In the end, Tunten found it more and more difficult to control the true sunfire. She was in a bad mood and used her devouring ability to dispel the 10,000-year mysterious ice at the same time. The Tautai clan's devouring ability was indeed powerful. They even dared to swallow mysterious ice, just like ordinary people eating popsicles. But the problem was that if a person ate more than 10 kilograms of popsicles at once, they would immediately collapse. In the end, Tunten had to give up devouring and continue to break the ice with the true sunfire. If I can cultivate an indestructible demon spirit and control the true sunfire, I will soon be able to break the ice. Tunten thought in distress. If that old golden crow knew about this long ago, it would have been very easy for him to take out the secret treasure. But then, we won't get anything. It was at this moment that Tunten's heart suddenly tightened. She hurriedly turned around and saw 4 figures appear behind her. The one at the front was a strange sight. He had an aged appearance, a hunchback, and a bird's face but a fish's head. He looked at Tunten and sneered, "How about it? You should believe this old man's words now, right?" The old man was Ancestor Kuan-yu. One of his clones had been captured by Lin Feng, so it was his main body that had appeared here. The 3 people beside him were the helpers he had invited to search for the treasure. All of them had advanced Yuanian cultivation. Next to him was a middle-aged scholarly man called Ancestor Xianlin. He was an expert among the natives of the Arctic Ice Sea and an unaffiliated cultivator. It was quite rare for him to reach the advanced Yuanian stage. Ancestor Xianlin said, "Those Xianmen Tianzong disciples are indeed a decoy." Ancestor Kuan-yu proudly said, "I have carefully studied Xianmen Tianzong's information. Besides the master of the Celestial Gate, there are only 2 people who can control the power of true sunfire. One is the eldest disciple of the Celestial Gate, Xiao Yan, and the other is this young Taotai. These 2 weren't in that group of people just now, so it's naturally a diversion." One of the other 2 was a burly man with a large hooked nose. He was from the demon race and was called the 9-clawed Eagle King. He was a 9-clawed golden eagle in human form. The 9-clawed Eagle King's physique was already quite robust, but it paled in comparison to the brawny man standing beside it. The brawny man was over 3 meters tall, and he was a giant whale that had turned into a demon near the Arctic Ice Sea. His name was extremely renowned in this region, and he was respectfully known as the North Sea Whale King. Why didn't the master of the Celestial Gate come to take the treasure himself? The 9-clawed Eagle King's voice was sharp like an eagle's cry. Ancestor Kuan-yu smiled and said, "I have already received news that Lin Feng is busy dealing with the Essence Soul experts who came after hearing the news." Ancestor Kuan-yu laughed sinisterly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent only his disciples to take the treasure. It's because he can't leave himself. The North Sea Whale King said in a muffled voice, "Wasn't your clone killed by his clone?" Ancestor Kuan-yu's mouth twitched. He snorted and said, "I can guess that his clone is probably hiding nearby and preparing to ambush us." Because he knows that I can also confirm the specific location of the entrance to the Ku Peng's secret treasure. As he spoke, Ancestor Kuan Yu flashed a talisman in his hand. That's why I spent a lot of money to get this illusory mirage talisman to hide from the master of the Celestial Gate. Although his clone is strong, it's still a Yuanying stage clone. He can't see through the illusory mirage talisman to hide our whereabouts without reaching the essence soul stage. The North Sea Whale King nodded and said, "Then let's not waste time and capture this little girl alive. Don't kill her or we won't have the true sunfire anymore." Patriarch Shenlin smiled and said, "Easy." With that, he formed a giant ice hand with his power and grabbed at Tuntun's head. Tuntun's eyebrows twitched and she activated the true sunfire, causing it to explode on the ice hand. Then she opened her mouth and activated the devouring the heavens and earth ability to devour a large amount of the already unstable ice hand's power. Patriarch Xuanlin's move was neutralized by her. The Taotai was a great ancient demon and its strength could crush most opponents of the same cultivation level. Tuntun had cultivated a demon nascent again and advanced to the Demon King stage. Its strength was even stronger than when it was in the Infinite Wasteland. Patriarch Xuanlin's carelessness almost made him lose face. A fierce light flashed in his eyes, and he felt that he had lost face. He activated his power again and the ice hand that was gradually melting showed its power again. It became even stronger and slammed down on Tuntun. He was an advanced Yuanying old monster after all. Even if he didn't manifest his heaven and earth avatar, he was still extremely powerful. Tuntun didn't panic at all. Instead, she grinned at Patriarch Shenlin and then glanced at Ancestor Kuan Yu, the nine-clawed Eagle King and the North Sea Whale King behind him. Her eyes were green as if she was looking at food. Patriarch Shenlin and the other three were extremely unhappy to be sized up by a little girl at the early Demon King stage, and alarm bells rang in their hearts. Something's wrong. The same thought emerged in the minds of the four at the same time, but before they could react, purple chi surged in the sky and a figure walked out of the spatial crack. It was Lin Feng. Ancestor Kuan Yu stared at Lin Feng for a long time as if she had seen a ghost. "This is your clone and your cultivation level is only at the Yuanying stage. How could you see through the concealment of my mirage talisman?" Chapter 413. It wasn't Lin Feng's true body that had appeared here. It was his metal tree avatar. Lin Feng held a faint golden pearl in his hand and stared at Ancestral Master Kuan Yu with interest. "Oh, Mirage Talisman? It looks like it's from the Mirage Demon race of Infinite Wilderness." Ancestral Master Kuan Yu said bitterly, "Since you can find us, why did you send your disciple to mislead us?" Lin Feng smiled but didn't say anything. He wasn't obliged to explain to Ancestral Master Kuan Yu. In reality, he really didn't expect Kuan Yu to have a treasure like the Mirage Talisman. However, Kuan Yu also didn't expect that Lin Feng's Celestial Sea Golden Pearl would actually have an innate counter to the Mirage Talisman. The reason why he asked Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao to lure away the cultivators gathered here was simple. There was a saying that justice was a timid little girl who only dared to appear when there were many people around. This saying was a bit extreme, but it was applicable to some people in certain situations. On the other hand, evil was also a timid little girl. The more inaccessible the environment, the more likely it was to appear. If Ancestral Master Kuan Yu and the others had the ability to sweep everyone away, they wouldn't have to worry about the others. But the problem was that they didn't. If Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao hadn't lured everyone away, Ancestral Master Kuan Yu would still have hidden among the people and waited for the right opportunity to appear. Ancestral Master Kuan Yu was shocked, but the three old monsters next to him were also shocked. But they quickly recovered. The nine-clawed Eagle King looked at Ancestral Master Kuan Yu fiercely. "Are you sure his true body can't come here?" Ancestral Master Kuan Yu also reacted. He stared at Lin Feng and smiled sinisterly. "At least not in the short term." The nine-clawed Eagle King shouted, "Then let's kill his avatar first. No matter how strong he is, he can't beat the four of us together. Once we obtain the Ku Peng's secret treasury and obtain its inheritance, he won't be able to do anything to us even if his true body comes." As it spoke, the nine-clawed Eagle King let out a shrill cry and directly shed its human form, revealing its true form of the demon clan. It turned into a giant golden eagle with iron-like feathers and 9 sharp claws under its abdomen. Its pair of eagle eyes shone with an ominous light. They were currently in a tunnel that Tunton had used the true sun fire to burn through the ice. The tunnel was narrow, and they were surrounded by solid ice that was thousands of years old. The 9-clawed Eagle King had revealed its true form and was naturally not its true size. It looked like an ordinary eagle. But in terms of power, it would not weaken in the slightest. As the 9-clawed golden condor screeched, a shadow appeared above his head, and a golden condor that was completely made of light appeared. It was his Dharma idol, and it had shrunk in size. Dharma idols were great divine abilities that could change their size at will. While the 9-clawed Eagle King made its move, the others didn't stay idle either. Xianlin Patriarch slapped the top of his head, and a translucent figure made entirely of ice flew out of the light. The figure stood on the ground, causing the temperature in the ice cave to drop even further. Ancestor Xuanlin's Taoist technique originated from ice and snow. In such a cold environment, although his heaven and earth form could not directly mobilize the power of the 1,000-year mysterious ice, his combat strength was undoubtedly greatly enhanced under the home environment. The same principle applied to the North Sea Whale King and ancestral Master Kuan-Yu. The Northern Sea Whale King was a giant whale that had turned into a demon. It could unleash 200% of its power in the water. Now that it was in the glacier, it could also borrow the cold air to fight. The depths of the Arctic Sea were abnormally cold. His Dharma form, on the other hand, was a giant whale. It had shrunk in size in the ice cave, so the visual pressure wasn't as strong. However, the aura of his Dharma power was strong and didn't diminish in the slightest. Ancestral Master Kuan-Yu's Taoist technique incorporated the inheritance of the Kuan Peng. Both his main body and avatar had cultivated to the late-stage Yuanying level, which was quite rare. Both his main body and avatar had cultivated heaven and earth forms and obtained one of the 2 forms of the Kuan Peng. The avatar's heaven and earth form was in the form of a Peng, while the main body's heaven and earth form was in the form of a Kuan. The Kuan Peng turned into a Kuan in the water. Its body was thousands of miles long, and it was the largest type of demon in the water. It was extremely powerful. The Kuan Peng had 2 forms. The Peng form had the top speed of the demon race, while the Kuan form had immense power. Ancestral Master Kuan-Yu's main body had manifested his heaven and earth form, which was a giant fish. Just like the North Sea Whale King, he had shrunk his heaven and earth form size. However, the vast power fluctuations coming from it were the strongest among the 4. Although it was a 4-on-1 fight, and 4 late-stage Yuanying cultivators were ganging up on 1 early-stage Yuanying cultivator, Ancestral Master Kuan-Yu and the others simultaneously used their trump cards against Lin Feng. The 4 late-stage Yuanying cultivators manifested their heaven and earth form together, and the power was extraordinary. Tunton kept shrinking behind Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at them and smiled, thinking, "It has a lot to do with my low reputation in the Arctic Sea area. Over at Kunlun Mountain, even if it's a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, when they see a clone of mine, their first reaction is to turn around and run. However, things will soon be different." He pointed at his glabella, and a scarlet-red flame immediately flew out and landed on the ice. It turned out to be a full-body battle armor. Its powerful dermic power waves shook even the surrounding manifold mysterious ice. It was the Dharma treasure that Lin Feng had refined, the Flame Dragon Sky Armor. The moment the treasure appeared, Ancestral Master Kuan-Yu and the others' heaven and earth form became like lambs that had seen a wolf. They were so suppressed that they could barely breathe. During the battle on Kunlun Mountain, Lin Feng did not use the Flame Dragon Sky Armor against nascent soul cultivators. It was not because it was useless, but because it might expose the Flame Dragon Sky Armor's background. It would be disadvantageous to Lin Feng if it was leaked. However, it was not a problem to deal with Ancestral Master Kuan-Yu and the others now. Although the Flame Dragon Sky Armor was a fake Dharma treasure that Lin Feng had refined, its power was not inferior to a real Dharma treasure. It was almost equivalent to a first-layer nascent soul cultivator. The God of War clone did not shrink this time. Instead, It fused tightly with the armor. It was more than 2 meters tall and was filled with explosive power. It was like an active volcano that was about to erupt. Kuan Yu and the others could only wait to be captured. The 9-clawed Eagle King wanted to use its bird-like nature to escape with its speed advantage. As a result, Lin Feng raised the purple flag and a false astral wind god rushed out. The 9-clawed Eagle King immediately followed in the footsteps of the Kuan Yu Patriarch's clone in the past. It was directly slashed by the false astral wind god and heavily injured. However, Lin Feng did not kill it, and the North Sea Whale King was spared. They were both seriously injured and could not do anything. They were each imprisoned in a small world. My disciples are gradually growing. It's time to prepare mounts for them. Lin Feng sighed. It's not easy to accumulate so much wealth. Ancestral Master Xianlin was not so lucky and was killed on the spot. Kuan Yu was also killed by Lin Feng. He originally wanted to take advantage of Lin Feng, but now all his things were in Lin Feng's hands. After interrogating Ancestral Master Kuan Yu's divine soul, Lin Feng thought, did he obtain the incomplete power inheritance of the dark beast Mingdu in a medium-sized world? According to Kuan Yu, that medium-sized world was extremely barren and was now occupied by a great demon from vast Tianhuang land. The other party was extremely powerful and was a demon sage who had an indestructible demon soul. There were no cultivation resources in that medium-sized world, and the spirit chi was also very thin. The few natives were also killed by the great demon. Ancestral Master Kuan Yu accidentally entered and almost died in the hands of the great demon. He quickly submitted and was willing to serve the demon sage. The demon sage seemed to have some ideas about the divine land, but it was not convenient for him to enter. Therefore, he used Ancestral Master Kuan Yu to travel between the medium-sized world and the divine land. While gathering information, he also bought some treasures unique to the divine land. Ancestral Master Kuan Yu also obtained some benefits. He learned some power inheritance of the dark beast Mingdu from the demon sage. That demon race great sage wasn't Mingdu instead. He had an extremely complete skeleton of Mingdu. There wasn't even a tooth or finger bone missing. Ancestral Master Kuan Yu observed the Mingdu skeleton and tried to figure out some of the power of extreme darkness. But every time, before he could reap more benefits, the great sage of the monster clan would take away the bones, which made his heart itch. He scratched his ears and cheeks, and had no choice but to serve the great sage of the monster clan over and over again in order to obtain more benefits. According to Ancestral Master Kuan Yu's perception, this Mingdu was extremely powerful before it was born. It was definitely a demon sage that cultivated the immortal demon soul. But for some reason, it died and its skeleton fell into someone else's hands. Knowing all of this, after the initial joy, Lin Feng's eyebrows gradually furrowed, feeling that something wasn't quite right. Even though I don't know what level of indestructible demon soul this Ming solitary was at when it was alive, but to be able to preserve its skeleton so completely is really rare. The most valuable thing in the Kuan Peng secret treasure that many people are crazy about is the Kuan Peng skeleton. Lin Feng's expression was uncertain. That demon sage got such a complete Mingdu skeleton, why didn't he absorb and refine its power? Lin Feng carefully pondered. Unless this solitary dark skeleton has other uses in his hands, being able to display an even greater effect. Sun Yang Essence Stone, Qian Yuan Flame Essence Soul, Ancient Willow Root. Lin Feng recalled. These were the treasures that the demon sage collected from the divine land through Ancestral Master Kuan Yu. The illusionary mirage talisman that Patriarch Kuan Yu used to hide his whereabouts was also obtained from the great sage of the demon race. Connecting this to the fact that the great sage of the demon race occupied a barren medium-class world and constantly paid attention to the movements of the divine land, a vague clue appeared in Lin Feng's mind. It's a pity that I don't know the race of that great demon. Otherwise, I should be able to get more useful information. Lin Feng shook his head and looked at the talisman that he got from Ancestral Master Kuan Yu. No matter what, I have to go to that medium-class world. Through this spirit talisman, Lin Feng can determine the spatial position of the dimensional realm, and from there find its location in the turbulent space. But that's in the future. Lin Feng smiled. Let's finish the things in front of us first. Lin Feng sent a message to Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, who were strolling in the garden with the others. He asked them to come here and meet him. After Shi Tianhao and the others arrived, the people behind them also followed them. After seeing the surrounding landscape, they all cursed in their minds, "Cunning Xianmen Tianzong." Some of the bad-tempered ones cursed out loud. A middle-stage Yuanying ancestor of the Heavenly Pool sect pointed at Zhu Yi and cursed, "That kid, do you think we are monkeys?" Chapter 4:14. Everyone frowned when they heard the elder of the Celestial Pool sect. Some of the younger cultivators snickered. The Yuanying elder had cursed himself too. But in fact, the nascent soul-stage patriarch of the Heavenly Lake sect seemed to be angry, but in fact, he did it on purpose. In order to arouse the anger of everyone present, he attacked the celestial sect of Xianmen. Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the rest looked at each other and smiled. They did not care. Zhuge Fengling giggled, "We were traveling to enjoy the scenery of the IC, but you kept following us. We were wondering why you were following us." The middle-stage Yuanying elder of the Celestial Pool sect was furious. "How dare you? Die, bitch." He waved his hand and the ice flame rushed towards Zhuge Fengling, who was on the Kuei-Nyo King. Behind him, the rest of the people from the Celestial Pool sect did not look good. They released their mana towards Zhu Yi, Tiny Tot, and the rest. One of the late-stage Yuanying elders did not move, but he stared at the Kuei-Nyo King and the Black Dragon Jieyu to prevent them from escaping. Although the name of the Celestial Sect of Wonders was famous, its influence in the Arctic IC area was actually not that big. Therefore, although everyone was a little wary, they were not afraid. Especially when they saw that the Celestial Sect of Wonders Master Lin Feng was not here, and with the Celestial Pool sect taking the lead, the crowd immediately surged and became restless. Zhu Yi looked at the ice flame calmly. He flew up and left Jieyu's head to face the ice flame. He stepped on the void and walked forward step by step. He was not fast or slow, but he was filled with unwavering determination. As he moved forward, streams of black and white magical power gushed out and weaved into a huge sacrificial altar under his feet. Black and white intertwined. This altar looked like a mandala flower, but at the same time, it was not a mandala flower. Bright and dazzling rays of light intertwined with dark and deep black lines, forming lines that looked like the orbits of stars in the sky. Zhu Yi stood on top of the altar, facing the ice flame that was already in front of him. His pupils suddenly changed. His right eye emitted a dazzling radiance. It did not make one feel warm, nor did it contain any warmth. It was the purest, most primitive, and brightest radiance. His left eye, on the other hand, had turned pitch black. The white of his pupil had completely disappeared, leaving behind only endless darkness, like the most serene abyss without the slightest trace of light. In the next moment, the light in Zhu Yi's right eye disappeared without a trace, turning into boundless darkness. It was like an eternal night had descended, devouring everything in the world. Meanwhile, within his left eye's extreme darkness, it released great radiance, turning into the most extreme radiance. It pierced through the heavens and earth, illuminating the ages. The extreme radiance gave birth to darkness, and the extreme darkness gave birth to light. Light and darkness reversed, turning into modeled characters in the space. Light and darkness mixed together, looking messy. However, light and darkness never interfered with each other. The brightest light and the most serene darkness were clearly separated, yet they blended into one. Under Zhu Yi's control, these light and dark characters quickly turned into a colorful text. It was filled with the great momentum of humanity, carrying on the past and opening up the future, breaking through the old and reforming. It went against the current, rumbling as it dispersed the ice flames in front. When this spell was used, the IC cultivators who were ready to make a move all quieted down. Rumors were one thing, and seeing it with one's own eyes was another. No matter how detailed the rumors were, the impact they had on people was not as great as seeing it with one's own eyes. Seeing that Zhu Yi could actually fight against a middle-stage Yuanying cultivator, everyone felt that it was unreal. Surpassing a whole realm, Wasn't it said that Shi Tianhao did it? How come this Zhu Yi could do it too? Could it be that everyone in Xianmen Tianzong is this powerful? The old ancestor of Tianqi sect who was fighting with Zhu Yi was called Old Ancestor Snowy Peak. He was actually not that old, not even 1,000 years old. With his current cultivation, he still had great potential. He was the leader of the Tianqi sect's middle generation. Now that he was defeated by Zhu Yi, Old Ancestor Snowy Peak suddenly felt embarrassed. He sneered and said, "Kid, don't be too arrogant." Although he was angry, he didn't let his guard down at all. His attacks were accurate and ruthless. The ice flame that Zhu Yi had defeated became stronger again, and the fire was even fiercer than before. When these ice flames expanded to a certain extent, they all turned into pale white flames that seemed to be solid. They looked like flames, but it was almost impossible to see that they were dancing. These solid ice flames quickly formed a huge cube, wrapping Zhu Yi in it like a cage. The special space sealing ability of Yuanian cultivators was exerted at this moment, firmly imprisoning Zhu. The inside of the ice flames was like an independent space, completely isolated from the outside world. In here, Zhu Yi felt that he couldn't mobilize the spiritual qi of heaven and earth at all, and he also lost the connection with the Tao of heaven and earth. The spiritual energy around him was burning hot and freezing cold. It was completely formed from ice flames, and it was constantly attacking his body. Seeing this, Zhu Yi secretly nodded. The strength of a middle-stage Yuanian cultivator is indeed different from that of an early-stage Yuanian cultivator. He cast an incantation and raised both of his hands. A mass of bright white thunder light flew up into the sky, turning into a white lightning net in the air. It was the Yuanian realm magical item that Zhu Yi had obtained from Lin Feng, the Desolate Element 9 Refinement's thunder net. The thunder net quickly expanded in the space, and in the end, it turned into a huge thunder net that covered the sky. Violent lightning bolts were running on the lines of the net, making the whole net look like countless brontosaurus crisscrossing. Within the white thunder light, the crystal-like folds of space were stacked together, constantly twisting and shaking. After making contact with Ancestor Snowy Peak's ice flames, the thunder light and the ice flames fiercely collided, exploding non-stop. At this moment, the space that had been imprisoned by the ice flames loosened. With the help of the Yuanian realm magical item, Zhu Yi was about to break the ice flame space of Ancestor Snowy Peak. The surrounding ice cultivators were pointing at him, but Ancestor Snowy Peak didn't get angry anymore. Instead, a cold smile appeared on his face. He suddenly cast an eccentric incantation with his right hand. The next moment, a white mist suddenly appeared in the space created by the ice flames. When the mist touched the magic power of Zhu Yi and the Desolate Element 9 Refinement's thunder net, it immediately turned into a boundless fire. The fire was extremely fierce and violent. The secret magical technique of the Heavenly Pool sect, the Ice Flower Burning Flame technique. This technique was quite famous, and many people recognized it. Although they weren't the target of Ancestor Snowy Peak's attack, they were still frightened by it. The Ice Flower Burning Flame technique could turn the opponent's magic power into its own fuel, which would constantly increase the power of the technique. The stronger the opponent's magic power was, the more powerful the Ice Flower Burning Flame technique would be. The opponent tried to strengthen his magic power to resist the Ice Flower Burning Flame technique, but the result was like adding firewood to the fire, increasing the power of the Ice Flower Burning Flame technique, and sending all his magic power to the enemy. When Xianmen Tianzong and the others saw Ancestor Snowy Peak cast this magical technique, their faces turned serious. They had all seen Dao Yuding cast the Ice Flower Burning Flame technique in the Desolate Sea Grand Assembly. This magical technique was extremely difficult to cultivate, and was considered to be difficult even for the cultivators of the Golden Elixir period. Only the cultivators of the Yuanian period could master it. When Dao Yuding learned the Ice Flower Burning Flame technique with the cultivation of the Foundation Establishment realm, it shocked the world, and the name of a genius spread like wildfire. However, praising her as a genius was mainly because her own cultivation was low, yet she was able to comprehend this spell. To really say that her attainments in the Ice Aurora Incineration technique was very profound, that was unrealistic, as she had only learned a bit of superficial knowledge. After all, as one of the top magical techniques of the Heavenly Pool sect, the ice flower burning flame technique was quite difficult to master. However, at this moment, when Ancestor Snowy Peak cast it, it was extremely smooth and skillful, as if he had already mastered its essence. Whether it was the light and dark characters of Zhu Yi or the white thunder light of the Desolation Prime 9 smelting thunder net, they were all incinerated by the white icy mist of Ancestor Snowy Peak, turning into fuel for the raging fire. With a calm expression, Zhu Yi waved his hand casually. Under his pen, the light and dark characters once again turned into a magnificent article, and this time, Zhu Yi wrote the second paragraph of the article. When the second paragraph was completed, on the basis of the original concept, it revealed an even more powerful concept, one that surpassed everything and had no limit. All obstacles, all shackles, all difficulties were insignificant and would eventually be surpassed. Enemies would be surpassed, difficulties would be surpassed, time would be surpassed, space would be surpassed, and the limits of the world would also be surpassed. Only the general trend of humanity would keep moving forward. The Desolation Prime 9 smelting thunder net turned into a sheet of pure white thunder light, surrounding the magnificent article written by the light and dark characters, as if it was framed. Under the powerful force that surpassed all obstacles, even the ice essence burning flame couldn't burn it. The magnificent article turned into rolling flowing light, as if it was galloping, breaking the icy mist and raging fire of the ice essence burning flame, breaking the ice flame wall that confined the space, and showing itself in front of the world. After the flowing light, Zhu Yi slowly walked out, and with each step he took, the interweaving black and white light extended forward, paving a path. Not to mention Ancestor Snowy Peak, even the other cultivators of the Heaven Pool sect were shocked, as they had never thought that Zhu Yi's Tao was so powerful that Ancestor Snowy Peak, who was at the middle stage of Yuanying, couldn't do anything to him, and even his most powerful magic was broken. The other cultivators from the Ice Sea were even more shocked. This Zhu Yi actually has the upper hand. The middle stage of Golden Elixir is fighting against the middle stage of Yuanying, and Zhu Yi, who is at the middle stage of Golden Elixir, has the upper hand? This disciple of Xianmen Tianzong is so terrifying. Watching Zhu Yi walk toward him, Ancestor Snowy Peak felt a slight chill in his heart. From the Heaven Pool sect's camp, a white-bearded elder walked out slowly. "Enough, young man. Enough is enough. Don't push your luck." Zhu Yi said lightly, "Don't push your luck. We should be the ones saying that to your Heaven Pool sect. Since the Barren Sea Divine Assembly, you have provoked me, Xianmen Tianzong, again and again. Why don't you know that enough is enough? Since you don't know, then let us teach you." The white-bearded elder's face darkened. "It seems that it's time to teach you the rules. The master of the Xianmen sect doesn't teach children, so I will teach you on his behalf." Zhu Yi said lightly, "If you don't respect your elders, no one will respect you." The white-bearded elder didn't say anything else. As he sneered, a wild and vast wave of magic power spread out, showing that he was at the late stage of Yuanying. Chapter 415. During the Desolate Sea Assembly, the Celestial Pool sect's sect Master Chao Wei and Lin Feng didn't get along. Most of the disputes were started by Chao Wei. Chao Wei had his own reasons for doing this, but only Chao Wei knew about it. Most of the Celestial Pool sect's people didn't know about it. However, this didn't prevent them from following in the footsteps of their sect master. What's more, the dispute between the Celestial Pool sect and Xianmen Tianzong at the Desolate Sea Assembly ended with the Celestial Pool sect suffering losses. This made the Celestial Pool sect's cultivators even more unhappy. To the cultivators of the Heavenly Lake sect, the person that made them the most unhappy was still the Northern Militant Imperial Court. However, the Celestial sect of Xianmen could already be ranked second, and they had the momentum to surpass the first place of the Northern Militant Imperial Court. Chao Wei couldn't tell his sect not to provoke Xianmen Tianzong. That would be too cowardly, and the Celestial Pool sect's prestige would be ruined. The white-bearded old man was the Celestial Pool sect's elder, a late-stage Yuanying ancestor. Although he was unhappy with Xianmen Tianzong, he could still control his temper. He didn't start a fight like Ancestor Snowy Peak. However, he didn't expect Ancestor Snowy Peak, a mid-stage Yuanine cultivator, to lose to Zhu Yi, a mid-stage Golden Elixir cultivator. In the eyes of others, the Celestial Pool sect had lost even more face. This was something the white-bearded old man couldn't tolerate, so he decisively made a move. A Golden Elixir period cultivator didn't dare to fight against a Golden Elixir period cultivator, so he had to send a mid-stage Yuanine cultivator. However, even a mid-stage Yuanine cultivator wasn't a match. In the end, he had to force a late-stage Yuanine cultivator to make a move. Even if Zhu Yi and the others lost to the white-bearded old man, it would still be a glorious defeat. However, the white-bearded old man couldn't just admit defeat like this. Even if he was said to be bullying the weak, it was still better than having his face shaved clean. Therefore, the white-bearded old man directly clasped his hands together. A light flashed above his head, and a snow mountain that was dozens of feet tall appeared. The snow on the top of the snow-capped mountain suddenly melted and thick smoke billowed out. A large amount of raging fire and lava spurted out. In order to take down Zhu Yi and the others as quickly and cleanly as possible, the white-bearded old man revealed his heaven and earth avatar. The Dharma idol he cultivated was not in the shape of a human, but a huge active volcano. As soon as the silhouette of this active volcano appeared, a majestic wave of magic power spread out, immediately pressing down on Xianmen Tianzong, making it hard for them to breathe. Even the middle-stage demon king Kuei Ox King and early-stage demon king Jie Yu could not bear it. However, the onlookers did not come up to help. They had no intention of attacking the celestial sect of wonders together. Most of them found a problem after calculating in their hearts. Yu Hongyan, Zhuge Fengling, and Jun Zining had not formed their gold cores yet, so they could be ignored for the time being. The remaining people of Xianmen Tianzong were two from the demon clan. One was equivalent to a middle-stage Yuanine human, and the other was equivalent to a middle-stage Yuanine human. The remaining two were Zhu Yi and Tiny Tot. Although they were both middle-stage Golden Elixir, they had combat strength that was superior to ordinary middle-stage Yuanine old monsters. The Kuei Ox King and the Dragon Clan were primordial mutants with extraordinary strength. They were among the best of the demon clan in the same realm. In this way, even if the white-bearded old man was a middle-stage Yuanine old monster, it would not be easy for him to fight against four of them. Not to mention the others, even the cultivators of Celestial Pool sect were a little nervous. They were actually quite confident that the white-bearded old man could win, but it would be a little difficult to win beautifully. Ancestor Snowy Peak's eyes suddenly turned red. He stared at Zhu Yi and roared, "Little bastard, you and I are absolutely irreconcilable." With that, he rushed forward again. This time, he and Whitebeard were fighting Xianmen Tianzong together. The white-bearded old man understood that Ancestor Snowy Peak was deliberately acting like this in order to help him and ensure that nothing would go wrong. He did not speak. His real body closed his eyes, and the Snowy Peak volcano projected by the light and shadow above his head pressed down on Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others with a loud boom. Although Ancestor Snowy Peak seemed to be reckless and dizzy with anger, he was actually very calm. He had just fought with Zhu Yi, so he knew Zhu Yi's strength very well. From this, he could roughly guess the level of Shi Tianhao's strength. Therefore, Ancestor Snowy Peak attacked with all his strength. While activating his Dharma art, he waved his hand and shot out a golden light. The golden light fell into the air, and suddenly, a vast Buddhist magic power spread out from it. Waves of Buddhist chants rang out continuously, and the chanting of Buddhist Sanskrit instantly spread throughout the entire space. Rays of golden Buddhist light emerged, and the nearby Arctic tundra was illuminated with a golden light. Even in the face of the white-bearded old man's heaven and earth law, this majestic Buddhist light did not weaken in the slightest. Everyone looked at the center of the Buddhist light and saw that there was a fist-sized pill, emitting a strong Buddhist nature. Wherever the Buddhist light passed, cracks appeared in the space, and the world seemed to be on the verge of breaking. Saraira? Zhu Yi slightly frowned. It's the Saraira of a Buddhist monk with strength equivalent to the late Yuanine realm. When the others heard this, they all sucked in a cold breath. The great Lein temple was destroyed, and almost all the Buddhist relics were taken away. Most of them fell into the hands of the great Zhou dynasty, and a small number were scattered in the outside world. Ancestor Snowy Peak had obtained such a saraira, and then refined it, turning it into a Dharma artifact of his. Shi Tianhao, who had been sitting on the Kuei Ox King's head and watching the show silently, suddenly stood up and stared at the saraira in the air. This thing is not bad. Hearing this, the onlookers were speechless. Of course it was not bad. When it hit you, it would be even better. Ancestor Snowy Peak was so angry that he laughed. Without saying anything, he formed a Dharma art, and the saraira shone brightly. In the light, the saraira's shape gradually changed, and it turned into a golden ancient Buddha. This golden ancient Buddha's eyes were slightly closed, and it sat cross-legged in the air, its hands forming a Dharma art, and its expression was peaceful. However, when Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others first saw it, the first thing they felt was that this golden Buddha had experienced the vicissitudes of the world, thousands of tribulations, the past and the future. It was still eternal and free. It was as if it was the most dignified existence in the world, suppressing all evil and crooked ways, immovable like a mountain. Zhu Yi said in a deep voice, "Immovable Rulai Scripture." When this Buddhist monk was alive, he cultivated the most powerful immovable Rulai scripture of the 5 Rulai scriptures. The Great Lein Temple's most supreme Buddhist scripture was the 5 Rulai scripture. Back in the Sand Continent, Lin Feng and Zhu Yi had obtained one of the 5 Rulai scriptures by chance, the true meaning of Buddha's Dharma of the Infinite Light Rulai scripture. Although it wasn't a complete Buddhist scripture, they still benefited a lot after comprehending it. And in the legends, the immovable Tathagata scripture was even better than the immeasurable light Tathagata scripture by half a level. It was the Great Thunderclap Temple's supreme scripture, and its position in the Great Thunderclap Temple was equivalent to the position of the supreme Wangqing Dao and the Void Yin Yang Dao, the 2 scriptures, in the Void Temple. To be able to cultivate the immovable Rulai scripture meant that this Buddhist monk had been a core figure in the Great Lein Temple when he was alive. It was a pity that after he passed away, his grave was dug up, and his saraira was refined into a magical artifact. The little Shi Tianhao stared at the golden ancient Buddha for a while. It's not just not bad. The surrounding crowd didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You finally understood that it wasn't just not bad. If this thing's fist hit you, you would definitely cry for your parents. Who knew that Shi Tianhao's next words would make them vomit blood? I wanted even more. The corners of their mouths twitched. This brat. As if it was also angered by Shi Tianhao, the golden ancient Buddha in the air raised its palm and formed a fist. The golden ancient Buddha clenched his fist, causing a boom sound to ring out. All of the surrounding spiritual energy seemed to be sucked out by the clenching of his fist. All of it was clenched in his palm and clenched in his fist. The arm slowly pushed forward. The movement seemed to be incomparably slow, yet it seemed to be incomparably fast, merging the feelings of fast and slow together. The golden ancient Buddha punched out, and it drew a mysterious trajectory. It contained unparalleled power and fiercely bombarded toward Shi Tianhao in front of it. In a single punch, the entire void was blasted apart by this punch. The space turned into nothingness, and the air in all directions was completely blasted apart. Intense air currents pulled each other. Shi Tianhao didn't panic. He smiled and said, "Second senior brother, I want this thing. Don't break it." Zhu Yi smiled faintly. "As you wish. But let me say this in advance, I'm also very interested." Everyone, including the white-bearded old man and ancestor Snowy Peak himself, widened their eyes and stared blankly at the pair of brothers, Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. Just what are these 2 people thinking? Don't they know that right now, they're facing the attacks of 2 late-stage Yuanyin cultivators? The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. Late-stage Yuanyin cultivators and middle-stage Yuanyin cultivators are completely different. Arrogance. Their past achievements have made these Xianmen Tianzong disciples complacent. They don't know the immensity of the heavens and the earth anymore. Do they think they're the master of Xianmen Tianzong? They don't know the gravity of the situation. This time, they're bound to suffer a great loss. They'll definitely be suppressed and captured. It's a pity that the master of Xianmen Tianzong has to pay the price to redeem them. Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao didn't care about the comments of others. Shi Tianhao even sat down on the head of the Kuei Ox King again and returned to his leisurely appearance of watching a show. Zhu Yi didn't panic. He just waved his hand, and a light spot flew into the sky and expanded rapidly, turning into an incomparably complicated huge array. Yin and Yang life and death array. All kinds of mysterious runes and diagrams rose and fell in the formation and combined together, gradually forming a huge black and white pattern that covered the sky and covered the earth. Zhu Yi and Tiny Tot were full of confidence, because before they left, Lin Feng gave them the Yin and Yang life and death array in case they needed it. Everyone present stared blankly at the huge array above their heads, feeling dizzy. The white-bearded old man, ancestor Snowy Peak, and the other cultivators of Heavenly Pool sect were so depressed that they almost fainted. This is too shameless. Not only can the mountain gate and the blessed land move, even the mountain defense array is also fucking portable, and can be carried everywhere. Xianmen Tianzong, can you be any more shameless? Chapter 416. When the Yin and Yang life and death formation was in Zhu Yi's hands, its power was naturally not the same as when it was in Lin Feng's hands. What was more, he did not really control the Yin and Yang life and death formation, but only temporarily controlled it with the help of Lin Feng. Even so, the current Yin and Yang life and death formation was not something that the white-bearded old man and ancestor Snowy Peak could resist. All the cultivators of the Tianqi sect were cursing in their hearts. However, the moment Zhu Yi's array diagram appeared, the world turned upside down. The white-bearded old man's Dharma idol and Patriarch Snowy Peak Saraira were all swept away by the Yin and Yang life and death formation. Patriarch Snowy Peak's heart was bleeding. That relic was something that he had painstakingly obtained. He had refined it for a long time, and its power was even greater than his own. Even if he added all his belongings together, it would not be as valuable as that relic. But now, Zhu Yi had taken it away without any trace of politeness. Compared to Patriarch Snowy Peak, the white-bearded old man from the late Yuaning realm was even more pained. The Dharma form of heaven and earth was the condensation of all the magical power and essence of the cultivators in the later stage of Yuaning. It was the foundation for them to look down upon all the heroes, and it was also the foundation for them to break through to the primordial divinity state in the future. But now, he was directly swept away by the Yin and Yang life and death formation. Immediately, the white-bearded old man felt the connection between him and the Dharma form of heaven and earth being cut off. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Both his spirit and body were injured. Yuanying was so shocked that it almost flew out of its body. The white-bearded old man's eyes were already bloodshot. No matter how precious a relic was, it was still an external object. However, the Dharma idol of heaven and earth was almost equivalent to half a life. This was not because his Dharma form had been damaged in a fight with someone, but because it had been completely destroyed. The heavenly law's embodiment technique was capable of a myriad of transformations. Even if it was damaged, it would recover very quickly. However, if the Dharma form of heaven and earth was completely destroyed, although the cultivation base of the white-bearded old man would not drop to the middle stage of Yuanying, his vitality would be greatly damaged, and his strength would be even weaker than a middle-stage Yuanying cultivator. He would need to spend a very long time to cultivate the Dharma form of heaven and earth again. Only when the next heaven and earth Dharma idol was cultivated would he regain his original strength. The time it took to cultivate this Dharma idol was closely related to the time he had cultivated in the past. This was because the first Dharma idol was equivalent to the accumulation of a lifetime's worth of cultivation. If the first Dharma idol was destroyed, cultivating a new one would take much less time, but it would still take about half the time. Just thinking about it made the white-bearded old man dizzy. That would take close to 1,000 years. During this period of time, he wouldn't have to do anything else. He would just focus on condensing the second heaven and earth aspect. Even though the white-bearded old man was so furious that he was seeing stars, he was powerless to take revenge. Instead, he had to retreat continuously, fleeing as though he was flying. If he did not leave, he himself would be swept away by the yin and yang life and death formation. At that time, he would not only lose half of his life, but his whole life. The white-bearded old man was not the only one. With Ancestor Snowy Peak as the leader, the rest of the Skypond sect's cultivators also covered their heads and scurried away, afraid of falling into the yin and yang life and death array. There was only one thought in the minds of all the cultivators of the Skypond sect. Shinmen Tianzong was too fucking shameless. Not only could the mountain gate and cave escape, but even the mountain guarding formation could also escape. What kind of mountain guarding formation was this? Generally speaking, the power of a formation was the top among the magic skills of the same level, but there were also many limitations, such as the conditions and materials used to set up the formation. There were also differences in the power of different formations. The more powerful a formation was, the more dependent it was on the geographical conditions. Usually, it had to rely on the geographical conditions to maximize the power of the heaven and earth, so as to exert its greatest power. The supreme yin and yang void formation of the Taishu Temple, the Mahavirokana formation of the Big Layin Temple, and the great immortal nature sword formation of the Mount Shu Sword sect were all the same. For this reason, among the top formations of the Demon Clan, the 9 Sparkle Sky Falling formation was the most troublesome and frightening. Its power might not be much higher than that of the other top formations, but the key was that the 9 Sparkle Sky Falling formation could move at any time. As long as there was the formation map and the corresponding materials, the formation could be set up anywhere. At that time, with the help of the power of the 9 sparkle stars in the sky, the formation could hit wherever it was pointed. Right now, the yin and yang life and death formation was also a powerful formation that could move at any time. The power of the mountain guarding formation was at the same level, but it could move like a small formation. Facing such a formation, the cultivators of the Heavenly Pool sect couldn't think of anything else other than shameless. The other cultivators were also dazzled by the scene in front of them, and they sighed in their hearts. Shinmen Tianzong has made a name for himself. He's really amazing. He's just a disciple, and he's already so powerful. How powerful is the mysterious master of the celestial sect of wonders? The group of North Sea cultivators was a little stunned when they thought of that scene. The eyes of Patriarch He too lit up as soon as he saw the yin and yang life and death formation, as if he had seen a rare treasure. He looked like an old Thai who had seen delicious food, or a pervert who had seen a beautiful woman. When he came back to his senses, he didn't care that he might be affected by the battle. He directly flicked his sleeve, released his magic power, and put his disciples on the ice. Then he pointed to the sky and said, "This is a great opportunity. Look at the formation carefully, and study it carefully. If you can gain even a little bit, you'll benefit for the rest of your lives." Li Yuanfang and the others stared blankly at the unfolding yin and yang life and death formation in the sky, and they couldn't help but be stunned. They were far away from the formation, and could barely feel the vast and majestic power in the formation. But in just a moment, everyone felt dizzy, and their divine souls were shaken, and they were almost injured. Patriarch He too was so excited that he neglected one thing. Asking his disciples to observe the yin and yang life and death formation was like throwing them into the sea where a tsunami was taking place. Facing the fierce wind and huge waves that were like a catastrophe, they had to figure out the changes and flow of every drop of seawater in it. Although the yin and yang life and death formation didn't treat these people as enemies, just the fluctuations of magic power were enough to make them feel unbearable. Only Li Yuanfeng, although his face was pale, his eyes were unprecedentedly bright. He stared at the yin and yang life and death formation and murmured, "The materials used to set up this formation are not complete, and its power is just the tip of the iceberg. The person who presides over the formation hasn't really understood its mystery. But even so, it's too powerful. Even a poor man may not be able to figure out the changes in such a profound and mysterious formation in his whole life." The disciples beside him all fell to the ground. The eldest disciple of Patriarch, He too suppressed the dizziness in his divine soul and gave a muffled snort. "You can understand it again?" "I don't understand it, I don't understand it." Li Yuanfang seemed to be answering his question, but also seemed to be talking to himself. "Although I don't understand it, it's really wonderful, too wonderful." After saying that, Li Yuanfang's body swayed and he also fell to the ground, but his eyes were still fixed on the yin and yang life and death formation above his head. Patriarch He too was at the Yuanying stage, so the yin and yang life and death formation was not targeting him. He was just a bystander, so he was not like Li Yuanfang and the others who couldn't bear the pressure and almost had their divine soul broken. But he was just a bystander. He calculated the changes of the formation, but after a few steps, he found it difficult to continue. He couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, "Such a powerful formation, I only had the same feeling when I secretly watched the Vairocana formation in the past. Although I haven't seen the Supreme Yin and Yang Void formation and the Great Immortal Heaven Sword formation, I think they're just like this, right? Although the Great Zhou Dynasty's Divine Martial Immortal Extermination formation is fierce, it's not as exquisite as this formation." In the blink of an eye, Zhu Yi had already used the yin and yang life and death formation to roll up the white-bearded elder's heaven and earth form and Patriarch Snow Peak's relic. The second and third roll covered the sky, and was about to put the others of the Heaven Pool sect in. Suddenly, there was a cold snort between heaven and earth. The void split open, and endless ice flames spread. A figure walked out of the pale flames. It was the sect master of the Heaven Pool sect, Tao Master of Ice and Fire, Chao Wei. The ice flames rolled like waves, instantly covering half of the sky, and surging toward the yin and yang life and death formation. At the other end of the sky, a sea of purple clouds emerged, and Lin Feng's real body slowly walked out. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed, and the magical power of shattering heaven and earth was activated. This spell was used by his real body, and its power was much stronger than that of the Iron Tree doppelganger. The whole sky collapsed, and the wild earth, water, fire, and wind, like an unstoppable torrent, collided with Chao Wei's ice flames. The ice flames kept freezing the space, restabilizing the void, but its power was also exhausted, and it couldn't move forward. The yin and yang life and death formation shrank rapidly in the air, turned into a light spot, and flew back to the center of Lin Feng's eyebrows. Behind him, in the sea of purple clouds, a majestic white jade immortal mountain loomed. The void beside him split open, and a fat old man walked out. He looked at Chao Wei and said with a smile, "Sect leader Chao, let's not complicate matters that have been settled before." This fat old man was Taoist Master Chang'e of the Great Qin dynasty. Beside him stood a tall middle-aged man, whose qi and blood were as vigorous as the sun in the sky. He was dressed in the clothes of a northern alien tribe. He was Chao Wei's old rival, Prince Suixian of the northern militant tribe. On the other side of Lin Feng, there were three people. The first one was a purple-robed old man, who was Taoist Master Blue Thunder of the Purple Cloud sect. Next to Taoist Master Blue Thunder was a white-robed Taoist with white hair and a youthful face. He looked like an immortal and was surrounded by faint white clouds. He was also a powerful figure in the primordial spirit. He was Li Yao, a super minister of the Great Zhou dynasty, who was called Cloud Immortal and Taoist Master Cloud. There was a man in blue standing next to riding Cloud Immortal. His face was thin and simple. As soon as he appeared, all the Ice Sea cultivators gasped. They didn't know the others, but as long as they walked around the North Pole Ice Sea, they would know this person. This man called himself Taoist Master Ice Sea. He was a rogue cultivator, and he was the only powerful figure in the primordial spirit of the North Pole Ice Sea. However, he didn't establish a sect and always lived in seclusion. He rarely intervened in the affairs of the North Pole Ice Sea, so he didn't have a strong sense of existence. But he was regarded as the common master of the North Pole Ice Sea by all the practitioners. After Taoist Master Ice Sea showed up, he was still silent. Only the faintly discernible fluctuation of powerful Dharma power showed his identity as a powerful figure in the primordial spirit realm. After the Barren Sea Assembly, a group of powerful figures in the primordial spirit realm gathered again. Their goal this time was undoubtedly the Kunpeng hidden treasure below. Chapter 417. When the cultivators of the Tianqi sect saw that their sect master had arrived, they became more confident. But when they saw Lin Feng standing there silently, their momentum suddenly weakened. The cultivators from the Arctic Ice Sea all looked at Tao Master Ice Sea, who was next to Lin Feng. Everyone was nervous. In a sense, Tao Master Ice Sea was the supreme ruler of the Arctic Ice Sea. He was a master, and the cultivators of the Ice Sea were naturally the same. But when they saw Lin Feng, Tao Master Changlu, Tao Master Lan Ting, Tao Master Riding Cloud, and others standing together with Tao Master Ice Sea, these original masters suddenly felt very depressed. The appearance of other treasures in the Arctic Ice Sea did not attract the attention of these powerful primordial spirit cultivators. Even if there were others who came to find the treasures, they would at most have the strength of Yuanying stage. Tao Master Ice Sea could control the situation, and these local bullies could also follow behind and drink the soup. But the Kunpeng hidden treasure was of great importance. All of a sudden, all the primordial spirit cultivators were attracted. With so many primordial spirit cultivators, Tao Master Ice Sea's right to speak was instantly suppressed. Some of the cultivators of the Ice Sea thought maliciously, with such a treasure, even Taishu Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect will be alarmed. Let's see what you can do when they get involved. When you fight like ghosts, we may have a chance to take advantage of it. But unexpectedly, the cultivators of Taishu Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect did not show up. In the sky, Northern militants Wuxian King looked at Chao Wei and smiled. Chao Wei, your Tianqi sect is used to being domineering. Today, you have met an iron plate, haven't you? Chao Wei snorted and stared at Lin Feng. Give back the Dharma and relic of my disciples. Lin Feng said lightly, do you think that if my disciple did not show mercy, your two disciples could have escaped? You have to pay the price for provoking me, Xianmen Tianzong. Chao Wei's face was gloomy, but Lin Feng's expression didn't change at all. He said slowly, the secret treasure of Kunpeng is about to be opened. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. There are more important things to do now. Northern militant Prince Wuxian, who was beside him, smiled and said, Chao Wei, if you have any dissatisfaction, you can take your disciples and leave. His smile gradually became cold as he said, however, this time, the Kunpeng's hidden treasure will not belong to your celestial pool sect. Scram as far as you can from the Arctic Ice Sea. If you dare to take a step closer, I, Bei Rong, will be the first to not agree. Tao Master Changlu sighed. He looked at Chao Wei and advised, Sect Master Chao, let's not get involved in the dispute between the juniors. Let the juniors settle it themselves. Silently, Riding Cloud Immortal said, the most important thing now is to ask Sect Master Lin to open the Kunpeng's treasury. What he said was equivalent to expressing his stance. Although Tao Master Lan Ting did not say anything, he just smiled and did not say anything. However, the news that he personally went to Kunlun Mountain to visit Lin Feng and they had a good talk was not a secret. Everyone knew that Purple Cloud Taoism and Celestial Sect of Xianmen were now on good terms. Tao Master Ice Sea also did not speak, which was equivalent to a tacit agreement. Chao Wei took a deep breath and looked at Lin Feng. He nodded slowly and said, I will remember this for the time being. I will deal with you later. Lin Feng looked at him and slowly shook his head. Everyone, I now propose that the Celestial Pool sect be excluded from the previous agreement. You. Chao Wei's eyes shone with a cold light. Lin Feng still looked calm and did not give in. He looked at him and said, Sect Master Chao, with your current appearance, I am very suspicious that you will secretly break the agreement and obstruct us. Tao Master Changle coughed and said, Sect Master Lin, I don't think that is necessary. He thought to himself, nonsense, it doesn't matter who started it. If your disciples' Dharma of heaven and earth were destroyed, would you still be so calm? Oh, by the way, no one in your sect has cultivated the Dharma of heaven and earth. Everyone present could understand Chao Wei's anger. Late-stage Yuanying cultivators were the strongest cultivators below the primordial soul realm in all sections. At the same time, as long as they had enough lifespan, there was hope for them to reach the primordial soul realm. Such people were naturally the root of their lives, but it was forcibly cut off by Xianmen Tianzong. No wonder Chao Wei was furious. Riding Cloud Immortal Li Yao said slowly, "The Celestial Pool sect should not withdraw, but I think sect Master Chao will definitely make the right decision." Whether it was the Great Zhou dynasty or the Great Qin dynasty, they both adopted an attitude of pulling and beating the Celestial Pool sect, which was located in the northern frontier. In particular, the Great Zhou dynasty was geographically closer to the Celestial Pool sect. In the current situation, Lin Feng controlled all the conditions to open the Kunpeng's hidden treasure and had the greatest initiative. In order to balance Lin Feng, although the Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Qin dynasty were hostile to each other, they were willing to keep the Celestial Pool sect, which was not on good terms with Lin Feng. At the same time, they could also use the Celestial Pool sect to contain the northern militant royal court. The current situation was like this. They formed an alliance with each other, but also guarded against each other. Thinking of the Kunpeng's hidden treasure, Chao Wei forcibly suppressed his anger. Although he did not speak, his silence meant that he would abide by the previous agreement. With Chao Wei staying, many people heaved a sigh of relief. That was because when it came to the Kunpeng's hidden treasure, Lin Feng had too many advantages. His Yujing Mountain was also here. If it really pressed against the entrance of the Kunpeng's hidden treasure, even if Chao Wei, Riding Cloud Immortal, and all the other Essence Soul Grand cultivators worked together, they might not be able to break through. However, this kind of behavior could easily provoke public anger, so Lin Feng now divided some of the Kunpeng's hidden treasure and allowed people from other forces to enter together. Who could get the Kunpeng's hidden treasure and how much they could get would depend on their own luck. However, only cultivators below the Essence Soul realm could enter the hidden treasure, and the Essence Soul Grand cultivators had to stay outside. Lin Feng would not go in himself, including his clone. Lin Feng used the Kunpeng's hidden treasure as bait and successfully controlled the situation. He turned the tables on the Arctic Ice Sea. The original owner, Icy Sea Dao Master, now needed his permission to send disciples into the hidden treasure. From the beginning, after knowing that Ancestor Kun Yu had leaked the news, Lin Feng already had an idea. He did not intend to keep the Kunpeng's hidden treasure to himself. Instead, he adopted the method of sharing. Judging from the overall power structure of the Divine Land, Xianmen Tianzong had successfully fought his way out of the encirclement and established his own power and influence. Everything was difficult at the beginning, and the accumulation of the original capital was often the most bloody and cruel. In the past, in order to lead Xianmen Tianzong, Lin Feng did things more violently and fiercely, with a spirit of cutting through thorns and breaking through all obstacles. But now, whether it was Lin Feng himself or Xianmen Tianzong, they had entered a new stage of development, which was to accumulate strength, stabilize the foundation, digest the results of the previous battles, and continue to strengthen their internal hard power. Build high walls, accumulate grain, and slowly become a king. This was Lin Feng's idea. He began to ease the relationship with other external forces to buy time and space for his further development. Of course, there were some conflicts of principle that could not be compromised. For example, Lin Feng fully supported the battle between Shi Tianhao and the dual-pupiled man. The temporary peace now was to prepare for a more powerful outbreak in the future. When Lin Feng's strength and the overall power of Xianmen Tianzong were strengthened to a certain extent, Lin Feng would lead Xianmen Tianzong to the peak of the Divine Land. At that time, they would be able to kill anything and everything in their way. In the process of accumulating strength, building his own network and circle of allies was naturally an important part. The Kunpeng's hidden treasure this time was a very good opportunity. Previously, he had snatched a lot of cake, so he also took out a piece of cake to share with everyone, so that the benefits would be shared equally. Naturally, there were also distant relatives. If Chao Wei stayed, Lin Feng would definitely not let him off easily. As for Zixiao Taoism, which had always been on good terms with him, Lin Feng would also return the favor. Although Tianqi sect and Xianmen Tianzong were not on good terms, they had a worse relationship with the northern militant imperial court. Through the existence of Tianqi sect, they could also restrain the northern militant imperial court. The Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Qin dynasty were like fire and water. Even if they joined forces, the alliance was extremely fragile. At this time, they were competing to win over Xianmen Tianzong. Zixiao Taoism was the most stable ally of Xianmen Tianzong at present because of the support of Tao Master Lan Ting. Even if other people really joined forces, Lin Feng was completely confident to deal with them. Tao Master Ice Sea was the original real owner of the Arctic Ice Sea, and the Kunpeng's hidden treasure was also on his land. At this moment, Lin Feng turned the tables and offered Buddha to others. It was impossible to say that there was no resentment in his heart. However, he was alone and the general situation had been determined. If he didn't want to really be excluded, he could only acquiesce to Lin Feng's leadership position and get a chance to get a share of the cake. Do you really think that I am so generous? Then you are all broken. Lin Feng laughed in his heart. As long as the cultivators of primordial spirit stage did not go down, even if everyone rushed into the Kunpeng's hidden treasure, the final treasure would most likely belong to Xianmen Tianzong. This was not because Lin Feng was confident in himself, but he was confident in his group of disciples, especially in Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. What a joke! What was the Kunpeng's hidden treasure? It was a copy. How could the one who was chosen fail in a copy? They were already being merciful by not using the halo of annihilation to trap all the others. Through this way of dividing the cake, the key was that Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong held the cake knife in their hands, so there was a lot of room for manipulation. In Lin Feng's view, this time the Kunpeng's hidden treasure had gained a lot of intangible benefits other than the treasure. Tao Master Lan Ting sent a voice transmission to Lin Feng. Sect Master Lin, are you sure that Taishu Temple and Mount Shu Sword Sect won't intervene? Lin Feng smiled and also replied with a voice transmission. If Tao Master Lan Ting doesn't believe me, why not make a bet with me? Tao Master Lan Ting laughed. I won't bet with you. I can see that at the Baron Sea Magic Conference, you have never lost if you dare to bet. Lin Feng smiled but did not say anything. In fact, Taishu Temple and Mount Shu Sword Sect had planned to send people over. However, not long ago, Lin Feng finally straightened out his thoughts. Lin Feng had a guess about the identity of the great sage of the demon clan who controlled the solitary dark skeleton behind Kunyu. This guess moved Yan Mingyue and Taishu Temple. In exchange, Yan Mingyue not only did not rush over, but also blocked the people of Mount Shu Sword Sect for Lin Feng. My guess is at least 80% accurate. While Lin Feng was thinking, Tao Master Changle said with a smile, Sect Master Lin, let's start. Chapter 418. Hearing Tao Master Changle's proposal, the other primordial spirit experts all looked over. Lin Feng smiled, silently clapped his hands, and the silhouette of Yujing Mountain above his head instantly became clear. Feeling the tremendous pressure brought by Yujing Mountain, the expressions of the primordial spirit experts didn't change, but their eyes grew solemn. The other cultivators with lower cultivation levels even faintly revealed a look of fear. Lin Feng directed his magic power, and a golden flame suddenly flew out from Yujing Mountain. It was the true Sunfire. This was not activated by Lin Feng's own magic power, but directly through the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree, extracting the true Sunfire of the Golden Crow Great Saint suppressed in the mysterious Heaven Time Light Cave. Lin Feng had squeezed out the last drop of the demon race Great Saint's marrow, not wasting even the slightest bit. Using his own body to activate the true Sunfire consumed too much magic power. In such a complex environment, he naturally had to try his best to maintain himself at his peak state. It's a pity that the fire ice fruit can't be used, otherwise it would be suitable for the current situation. Lin Feng felt a little regretful. The fire ice fruit was a treasure Lin Feng had obtained through the system's lottery after he had just formed his gold core. It was an extremely cold fruit that grew on the fire tree in extremely hot places. This fruit had both cold and hot properties. When it encountered extreme cold, it would turn cold air into fire. The colder it was, the hotter it would be. When it encountered extreme heat, it would turn fire into ice. The hotter it was, the colder it would be. Under normal circumstances, if one threw the fire ice fruit at an extremely cold ice soul, it would immediately turn the ice soul into raging fire. It would continuously melt the other ice souls, and the fire would grow stronger and stronger. Soon, the ice would be broken. But the fire-ice fruit had a limit. It could not convert fire into ice, but it could not convert fire into ice. On the contrary, the 10,000-year mysterious ice, as an extremely cold object, also exceeded the limit of the fire-ice fruit and could not be converted into raging fire. Suppressing the regret in his heart, Lin Feng controlled the true sunfire to land on the 10,000-year mysterious ice. The Iron Tree doppelganger had already left with Tunten. The raging true sunfire descended, constantly melting the ice that had been frozen for thousands of years. Dao Master Chang'e looked at the true fire of the sun and the mysterious ice that had frozen time and space. He sighed inwardly. Unfortunately, he is the only one here who can control the true fire of the sun. The rest of us can't break the mysterious ice. The chubby old man shook his head. He suddenly turned his head and saw Cloud Immortal of the great Zhou's Cloud Xian. The gazes of the two essence soul experts met lightly before they looked away and sighed in their hearts. Lin saw Lin Master Lin Lin's eyes and Tian Qi, and Master Long Yen Tian Zhou, and began. Heaven and earth treasures like the 7 great true fires are extremely rare. Like Xiao Yan, who has quite a few true fires at once, it is completely an anomaly. It has never been seen before, and it is very difficult for there to be someone like him in the future. Among the 7 true of Tian Tian Shin, Tian 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 Tribulation Flame, and Xidigarba true of Tian Tian Shin were ownerless and hidden. The Golden Crow clan controlled the true Sunfire, the Phoenix clan controlled the pure Yang fire, and Xiao Zhen's clan controlled the Nan Mingli fire. Then there was the reincarnation sect's heavenly way in the divine land that controlled the Red Lotus hellfire. They were also the people who were most likely to steal business from Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng had already received accurate information that the internal conflicts of the reincarnation sect had completely erupted recently. They had put on a full-scale martial arts show and were all in a mess. Although the reincarnation sect had the Red Lotus hellfire, they didn't have the time to deal with the Kun Peng's secret treasure. But Lin Feng did not let his guard down. Other than the true Sunfire, pure Yang true fire, Nen Mingli fire and Red Lotus karmic fire, of the remaining 3 types of true fire, the Nether Evil Emperor is currently in Xiao Yan's hands and is nothing to worry about. Fox Yen had the Black Heavenly Tribulation Flame, but she was now on Yujing Mountain. The only problem was the Xidigarba true of Tian Tian Shin. According to what Lin Feng knew, Yu Hongyan's master, Zhang Lai, controlled the Xidigarba true of Tian Tian Shin. Zhang Lai's whereabouts were always uncertain. Whether he was a lone wolf or had a powerful force behind him, Lin Feng still couldn't tell. If he joined a powerful force, then his sudden appearance with the Xidigarba true of Tian Tian Shin could change the situation. Although the possibility was small, Lin Feng had to be careful. There was no harm in considering more things. Fortunately, such an accident didn't happen until Lin Feng used the true Sunfire to break the ice. The thick ice layer, which was thousands of meters deep, was finally broken. In the dark Heaventime cave, the Golden Crow Great Sage, who had been tortured by the giant sword, was exhausted. The 10,000-year mysterious ice melted, and what appeared in front of everyone was a black ground, which seemed to be paved with pure black tiles. There seemed to be no signs of life, nor was there any Dharma power or spiritual qi. But Lin Feng and the others could feel the hidden undercurrent surging under the black ground. Ancestor, he too stared at the black ground, then turned to his disciples and said slowly, "This is the restriction set up by Kun Peng before he died." It used his own remains as the material, and it is incredibly powerful. Although it doesn't have the ability to attack, its defense is as strong as when Kun Peng was still alive. Not only Li Yuanfang and the others, but also the other cultivators stared blankly at the dark ground under the ice. It was dark and gloomy, but it revealed an indestructible aura. The area that Lin Feng broke through was limited. Looking around the ice, he could vaguely see that the black hole was huge and he couldn't see the edge at all. Dao Master Chang Lu and Immortal Riding Cloud looked at each other again and smiled bitterly. The advantage that Lin Feng had at hand was not only the true fire of the sun, which could break the 10,000-year mysterious ice, But according to Lin Feng, he had the pure Kuan-Peng bloodline, which was the key to opening the restriction. Without the pure Kuan-Peng bloodline, it was very difficult to break the restriction left by Kuan-Peng before he died. After all, the great sage Kuan-Peng who died here was said to be a great demon at the third realm of the immortal demon soul. Even if all the people here work together, they might not be able to break the defensive restriction left by him. Even if they could break it, if the great sage Kuan-Peng left a trap, when the restriction was forcibly broken, the treasure itself would collapse, and then everyone would be in vain. Lin Feng waved his hand, and a blue bloodline flew into the air, like a blue lightning, constantly swaying in the air. This was the Kuan-Peng bloodline he refined after killing Ancestor Kuan-Yu. Ancestor Kuan-Yu was originally a human. After refining the Kuan-Peng bloodline into his body, the original pure Kuan-Peng bloodline became tainted. Lin Feng also expended a lot of effort before he was able to refine and separate it. Looking at the black ground below, Lin Feng stretched out his hand and pointed. The blue bloodline in the air flew down and fell on the dark ground. Boom! When the blue bloodline fell on the black ground suddenly shone with a golden light. Endless brilliance kept flowing, reflecting the remaining ice cliffs around it into a golden color. Innumerable incantations and seals rose and fell in the golden light, jumping non-stop. The golden light rose and soared into the sky, turning the clouds in the sky into a dazzling golden cloud, dazzling to the eyes. Around the golden light, circles of light waves spread out like water ripples, constantly impacting everything around it. Everyone was dazzled. The array formation made by the remains of the dead is already so powerful. If this Kuan-Peng was still alive, how powerful would it be? Lin Feng and the other big shots didn't have time to admire it. They all looked down and saw the source of the golden light. The solid black ground suddenly undulated, as if the ground had turned into a sea in an instant. As the waves rolled, they started to spin continuously. A huge vortex appeared in the center and kept expanding. In the end, it completely turned into a violent vortex that kept spreading in all directions. Even the sturdy 1,000-year-old mystic ice was shivering in front of the raging vortex. The center of the black vortex gradually became a dark and deep hole like an abyss. That was the real entrance to the Kuan-Peng treasury. Through the black vortex, they arrived at the entrance of the Kuan-Peng treasury and entered it. On the other side of the entrance, Lin Feng and the others could faintly hear the sound of the tsunami and the storm. As the vortex rotated, the nearby space was violently twisted, constantly bursting out sounds, as if one world and another were squeezed together at the boundary, constantly rubbing and breaking. When Lin Feng and the others saw the scene, their faces all revealed solemn expressions. Before the Kuan-Peng great saint died here, he used a secret method to combine his body with the array and refined it into a minor kiliacosm, turning it into an independent space. The so-called opening of the Kuan-Peng treasury with the bloodline of the Kuan-Peng was actually to open the space channel between the boundless world of the divine land and this minor kiliacosm. Lin Feng slowly said, "Everyone, according to the agreement, we will stand guard here and send our disciples in. How many treasures they can obtain in the secret treasure is completely up to their luck. If there are others who come later, we will work together to stop them." Dao Master Lan Lei and Prince Suixin immediately said, "That's right." Dao Master Chang Lu and Flying Cloud Immortal also nodded at the same time. "As per the agreement, we will stay here to guard." Lin Feng glanced at Dao Master IC and said, "The number of disciples from the other sects is limited. Cultivators from the Arctic Ice Sea can also enter if they are not Dao Master Ice Sea's disciples, but the number must be limited. The specific candidates should be decided by Dao Master Ice Sea." Since he had taken the initiative, Lin Feng didn't mind sharing some benefits with Dao Master Ice Sea on other issues, letting him show mercy in his base camp, the Arctic Ice Sea, to save some face. Dao Master Ice Sea silently glanced at Lin Feng and slowly nodded. Although his expression was indiscernible, he finally said, "Okay." On the other side, Chao Wei still remained silent and did not speak. Lin Feng did not look at him. He thought to himself, "If you don't fall out with me directly, then you're definitely going to play dirty." I purposely left Dao Jiqiang behind for you to use as a target. Don't disappoint me. Chapter 419. On the Arctic ice sea, a layer of ice was completely broken. Within a radius of a few miles, all the ice melted, and a bright golden beam of light shot up into the sky. The clouds were steaming, stirring the clouds in the sky into a golden color, dyeing this part of the world. Countless runes and talismans kept surging in the golden beam of light, and from it came a roar that seemed to come from ancient times. Below the golden pillar of light was a pitch-black, gigantic vortex that was constantly rotating. Even under the illumination of the dazzling golden light, it was still pitch-black. The vortex did not make any sound as it rotated, like an abyss that devoured all light and sound. In the deepest part of the vortex, there was a hole, which was connected to another world. It was the burial place of Kunpeng, the real location of the secret treasure. Only by entering that spirit space could one hope to get the secret treasure of Kunpeng. Although they had not entered yet, Lin Feng and the other big shots could feel the endless evil qi contained in it. Obviously, the secret treasure of Kunpeng was not a sunny sightseeing place. On the contrary, it was full of danger and killing intent. Dao Master Changle said, "Rumor has it that the Kunpeng that was buried here was a great demon who had cultivated the third realm of the immortal demon soul. The Kunpeng became a Kun in the water and was the largest demon in the sea. When this Kunpeng was alive, its original body was thousands of miles long, even tens of thousands of miles long. Just some of the parasites in its body, after tens of thousands of years of accumulation and absorbing a small amount of essence qi from the dead Kunpeng, are enough to transform into fierce monsters." Hearing this, everyone nodded. Yes, not to mention that this spirit space was originally formed by the combination of Kunpeng's body and the formation. There must be many powerful restrictions in the formation. Cheng Yunxian, Chao Wei, and the others could not help but look at Lin Feng. Before, Lin Feng opened the restriction with the Kunpeng bloodline, but it only opened the door to the secret treasure of Kunpeng. There were still many powerful restrictions inside the secret treasure. If Lin Feng had extra Kunpeng bloodline, it would be an advantage for Xianmen Tianzong. "Everyone, please choose your candidates," Lin Feng said lightly. He came to the side of Zhu Yi and the other disciples. Little Shi Tianhao giggled and said, "Master, I really want that Saraira." Zhu Yi said, "Little junior brother, that's the remains of a Buddhist monk. It was desecrated and refined into a magic weapon. Let's let it return to ashes and dust to dust." Shi Tianhao pursed his lips and said, "Second senior brother, you just said that you're also interested." "That's right, I did say that." Zhu Yi nodded calmly. "But I'm not interested in the Saraira itself. I'm interested in the Dharma of the unmovable Buddha scripture contained in it. I hope to comprehend it and inherit what that eminent monk had learned when he was alive, instead of using it as an artifact like the Heavenly Pool sect." On the side, Lin Feng silently grinned when he heard this. Even though he had already returned those 24 Saraira to the ruins of the Great Thunder Sound Temple's pagoda forest, when he first obtained them, Lin Feng's own cultivation was still low. He had once used the Saraira as an artifact to fight people. This could also be considered a dark history from when he was weaker. This Saraira should be sent back to the Great Thunder Sound Temple in the future. Lin Feng looked at Zhu and Shi Tianhao and said with a smile, "However, it's not easy to extract the true meaning of the unmovable Buddha scripture. If it was easy, Chao Wei and the Heavenly Pool sect would have already succeeded." Previously, with those 24 Saraira, Lin Feng had once used the 24 Heaven Arhat formation to successfully activate the great divine abilities of the unmovable Wisdom King and the Ksitigarbha Golden Body. But that was because he had already grasped the art of Akala and the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to mobilize the hidden power in the Saraira out of thin air. Ancestor Snowy Peak had successfully refined the Saraira in front of him with the help of a huge amount of resources and experts of the Skypool sect. Now, he could activate part of the magical power of the unmovable Tathagata Sutra, but it was only superficial. It was a dream to analyze the complete unmovable Buddha scripture from it. Even Chao Wei and the Ice and Fire Elders couldn't do it. They could destroy the Suraira by force, but to deduce the Tao method from the Suraira was not a problem that could be solved by force. Shi Tianhao shrugged his shoulders and did not insist. His interest soon shifted to the Kunpeng secret treasure below. Master, you really don't want to go down? Yes, Master will watch over it for you outside. Lin Feng nodded. Not only his body, but his doppelganger would also not go down. This was also the agreement between him and the other primordial spirit big shots. Besides, the yin and yang life and death array would not be taken down by Zhu Yi and the others. This was not part of the agreement, but Lin Feng's own decision. When the ancient desolate sea world was bombarded by the 9 lights sky-shattering array, Lin Feng still felt a little scared after thinking about it. If anything had gone wrong, all of his personal disciples would have been killed, except for Xiao Yan. Therefore, he still left the yin and yang life and death array this time. In case something unexpected happened, it could stabilize the spirit space of the Kunpeng secret treasure. Thinking of the 9 lights sky-shattering array, Lin Feng was so angry that his teeth itched. Qiongqi, please don't let me catch your tail, or you will die this time. After combining all kinds of clues, Lin Feng speculated that the great sage of the demon clan standing behind ancestor Kuan-Yu was the great sage Qiongqi who attacked everyone at the Desolate Sea Magic Conference. The Sunyang Essence Stone, the Primordial Flaming Essence Stone, the 10,000-year-old willow root. These were the treasures that the great sage of the demon clan had asked ancestor Kuan-Yu to find. The Sunyang Essence Stone was extremely precious. Together with the true fire of the sun, they were the 2 rare treasures that contain the most essence of sunlight. Compared with the fierceness of the true fire, the Sunyang Essence Stone contained the essence of sunlight that was much gentler. The Primordial Flaming Essence Stone was a treasure from the desert sea in the west of the Divine Land. Its fire elemental essence was extremely pure and rich. In terms of quality, it was not inferior to the 7 great true fires. However, the power of the true fire was the source of living water, and it was constantly being regenerated. The Primordial Flaming Essence Stone, on the other hand, was a solidified crystal. The Primordial Flaming Essence Stone was a treasure that could only be found by luck. It contained extremely powerful and pure life force of plants. All of these were the best materials for setting up the 9 lights sky-shattering array. Although it was not the best and it was not perfect, it was enough to let the 9 lights sky-shattering array unleash more than half of its power. If all the treasures used for setting up the array were of this level, the power of the 9 lights sky-shattering array would be even greater than that of the Barren Sea Assembly. In terms of perfection, the skeleton of the dark beast, Mingdu, was the best carrier for the power of the hidden luminous K2 and the dark desolation of the Luoho. After verifying these things, Lin Feng had a guess in his heart. After escaping from the Qin dynasty after the Barren Sea ancient world, great sage Qiongqi did not hide back in the infinite mainland. Instead, he found an independent medium-class world in the void turbulence and hid there. Once the existence of the 9 lights sky-shattering array was exposed, there would be many powerful demon clans coveting it in the infinite mainland. Everyone wanted to control such a powerful array. When the Qiongqi clan returned to the infinite mainland, the trouble had just begun. It was better to hide outside and wait for the news to die down. Previously, great sage Qiongqi was able to avoid the eyes and ears of the great Qin Empire, traverse hundreds of thousands of kilometers, and lay in ambush near the Northwind Sea. Of course, this was because of the help of the human spies, but they definitely had special concealment methods. After seeing Kuan-Yu's illusionary mirage talisman, Lin Feng completely understood. When Kuan-Yu, who was at the late nascent soul stage, used this thing, people below the essence soul stage would not be able to easily discover his whereabouts. But if it was used by great sage Qiongqi of the undying demon soul stage, then as long as his own aura was not leaked, even essence soul stage powerhouses would find it difficult to discover him from a certain distance. After sorting out these clues, Lin Feng decisively sent the news to Yan Mingyue and the Taishu Temple. To be fair, as the divine land and the #1 sacred land of the human cultivation world, the Taishu Temple did one thing very well. Be it the conservatives or the radicals, They all had a high degree of unity in their attitude towards the demon clan. Any threat from the demon clan would attract their attention, and they would make it their first priority to attack. Yan Mingyue was originally in charge of investigating the Nine Lights sky-shattering array, so she already had some clues. After combining the information provided by Lin Feng, she could almost conclude that the demon clan hiding in that medium-sized world was definitely related to Great Sage Qiongqi and the Nine Lights sky-shattering array. Back then, there was more than one great sage of the demon clan who drove the Nine Lights sky-shattering array. Although Ancestor Kuan-Yu had only seen one great sage of the demon clan in the medium-sized world, it was very likely that only one great sage of the demon clan had come out to contact him. Now, the entire Qiongqi demon clan might be hiding in that medium-sized world. Yan Mingyue and the Taishu Temple needed time to prepare and further verify the accuracy of the information. During this time, Lin Feng could take advantage of the time to solve the matter of the Kuan-Peng's secret treasure. After that, he could use the talisman that Ancestor Kuan-Yu had given him to determine the exact location of the medium-sized world and bring Yan Mingyue and the others there. After a while, the primordial spirit experts had basically chosen the people who would enter the Kuan-Peng's secret treasure. All of them were led by late-stage Yuanying Ancestor Kuan-Yu, and at the same time, the main force was led by Yuanying stage cultivators and a group of outstanding rising stars. The former were responsible for obtaining the secret treasure, while the latter were mainly for training. On Lin Feng's side, Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao came down the mountain. With the four demon kings, Jieyu, King Kuei-Nyo, King Fialian, and Tunten, as well as Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, two people who could not be judged by common sense, the lineup was quite complete. However, without a late-stage Yuanying ancestor to lead the team, it looked a little weak in the Kuan-Peng's secret treasure. In particular, when the others saw Lin Feng take back the yin and yang life and death formation instead of handing it over to Zhu Yi and the others, their eyes lit up. Some of them even sneered inwardly, as if they were waiting to take revenge after they entered the secret treasure. These people thought that they had done it secretly, but in fact, Lin Feng had seen it all. He smiled leisurely and flicked his finger. A flame rushed into the space between Shi Tianhao's eyebrows and then disappeared. At this time, Dao Master Lan Ting came over. He looked at a girl who was quietly hiding behind King Kuei-Nyo and said with a kind smile, "Is this the little girl of the Jun family?" Jun Xining's face suddenly turned pale and she smiled bitterly in her heart. "My Dao Master Grandpa, how can a big shot like you recognize a little girl like me? This is troublesome. My family will come to the Divine Land to catch me if they find out." Chapter 420. In Jun Xining's opinion, although she was sent by her family to cultivate in the mountain gate of Purple Cloud Dao for a period of time, she was just a small shrimp that had not even reached the foundation establishment stage. It was impossible for someone like Dao Master Lan Ting to notice her. Even if she was extremely favored at home, it could not change the fact that the gap between their realms was too great. It was like the gap between an elephant and an ant, or even greater. In fact, she had only met Dao Master Lan Ting once. To be precise, she had seen him once from afar. Jun Xining really did not think that Dao Master Lan Ting could remember her when she was mixed in the crowd without even looking at her. She did not know that for someone with a powerful divine soul like Dao Master Lan Ting, there were many things that he did not care about and did not remember. In fact, having a photographic memory was just a common thing. As long as there was a need, he could find what he needed in the long river of memory at any time. Dao Master Lan Ting paid great attention to Shenmen Tianzong. He would naturally pay attention to everyone who appeared in front of him who was related to Shenmen Tianzong. Seeing that Jun Xining looked familiar at first glance, he thought for a while and immediately related information about her appeared in his mind. Seeing that Dao Master Lan Ting had recognized her, Jun Xining could no longer hide and obediently came out to salute him. However, to Jun Xining's relief, Dao Master Lan Ting did not seem to know that she had run away. Although Purple Cloud Dao had received a report from the Jun family, it was naturally not Dao Master Lan Ting who received the news. It was just a disciple of his. Such a small matter would certainly not disturb the spirit essence big shots of their own sect. When Tao Master Lan Ting saw Jun Zining, he only gave her a few gentle words of encouragement. He did not mention why Jun Zining was traveling with Xianmen Tianzong. Lin Feng saw this and did not know whether to be angry or amused. The old man's mood was probably very complicated. On the one hand, he felt that his side had a closer relationship with Xianmen Tianzong, but on the other hand, he had to wonder if the Jun family in the ancient Yuan Tian world wanted to climb up another branch in addition to Purple Cloud Dao. Lin Feng did not explain much about this. This misunderstanding was not enough to cause suspicion. It would not affect the relationship between Xianmen Tianzong and Zixiao Dao. Among the cultivators who came with Dao Master Lan Ting this time, Gu Lei and Li Kuyin, as the key talents of the sect, also came with them. They were going to enter the Kuan Pering hidden treasure later. At this moment, they were chatting with Shi Tianhao and Zhu. Li Kuyin looked at Shi Tianhao and kept shaking her head in admiration. Tianhao, I was already shocked when you fought against fellow Zhu in the finals of the Desolate Sea Assembly. Now you're even more shocking. You're unbelievably powerful. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, I'm strong enough to protect my sister, right? Li Kuyin laughed and patted Gu Lei who was beside her. Did you hear that? I'll have Tianhao to protect me from now on. You can go to the side. Gu Lei was not annoyed. He smiled and showed dimples on his face. Tianhao will be annoyed to death by you. Shi Tianhao giggled. Tunten and Zhuge Fengling behind him turned their faces at the same time. They curled their lips and thought to themselves, it's not certain who will be annoyed to death. This brat doesn't mind getting into trouble every day. Gu Lei looked at Zhu Yi and after a long while, he sighed. Fellow Taoist Zhu's cultivation base has improved again. I feel that the Yin Wind tribulation and the formation of a leakless gold core is just around the corner. Such speed of improvement is really admirable. Zhu Yi smiled. Fellow Gu, you're about to challenge the Void Thunder tribulation and try to form your nascent soul. Gu Lei shook his head. It's still too early. The success rate of passing the tribulation now is only 50%. I still need some accumulation. I need at least 70% confidence before I dare to try. He turned his head and looked to the side. This fellow is the one who can really pass the Void Thunder tribulation. She has accumulated a lot and can pass it effortlessly like walking on flat ground. Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and Li Kuyin looked at the yellow-robed girl who was walking in the air towards them. They nodded in agreement. You're right. The path of cultivation is long. It's always one checkpoint after another. The yellow-robed girl walked up to them and smiled. She was the princess of the Great Qin dynasty, Shi Xingyun, who had come with Tao Master Chang'e. Shi Xingyun's gaze fell on Shi Tianhao. She said softly, Tianhao, if your parents saw you like this, they would be so happy. Shi Tianhao raised his head and looked at her. Princess Xingyun seems to be implying something else. There was news that someone had seen your parents in the void battlefield. Shi Xingyun said slowly, it's just that the situation in the void battlefield is complicated. Your parents' exact whereabouts are still unknown. Shi Tianhao's breathing suddenly stopped and he murmured, Father, Mother. He took a deep breath and asked, in other words, at least my parents are safe, right? Shi Xingyun nodded. The news has yet to be confirmed, but there's an 80% chance that it's true. Thank you. Shi Tianhao let out a soft sigh. His gaze instantly became firm. He lifted his eyes and looked at Shi Xingyun, but he did not say a word. Shi Xingyun smiled. She had told the little Shi Tianhao the news out of good intentions, but she also had her own motives. She wanted to further motivate Shi Tianhao. The stronger Shi Tianhao was, the more trouble the dual-pupiled Shi Tianyi would face in the future. It would be more beneficial to the Great Qin dynasty's imperial power. She had no intention of concealing this matter since it was laid out on the table. Lin Feng watched the scene from the side and thought with interest, if this woman is a man, Shi Chongyun's position as the crown prince would be in jeopardy. However, in the history of the Great Tianyuan world, there have been powerful empires that have produced empresses. However, I heard that Shi Chongyun and Shi Xingyun have a good relationship. Shi Xingyun has always been a strong supporter of Shi Chongyun. What's going on? Interesting. Lin Feng turned his head and looked to the side. However, compared to Shi Chongyun, this one is much more low-key. At this moment, in the Great Zhou Dynasty's camp, a young man in a yellow robe was standing next to Riding Cloud Immortal. He was talking to Riding Cloud Immortal calmly. Even though he was facing a primordial soul cultivator, the young man in the yellow robe was calm and did not show any signs of weakness. The young man in the yellow robe was handsome and wore a jade crown on his head. He held a folding fan in his hand and did not open it. This young man was the crown prince of the Great Zhou Dynasty, Liang Yuan. However, this was only a clone of him. When Lin Feng and the others reached an agreement, he was also present. Riding Cloud Immortal would not let him off the hook. As the crown prince of the Great Zhou Dynasty, even a primordial soul cultivator like Riding Cloud Immortal would be given enough attention. After the agreement was reached, the crown prince of the Great Zhou Dynasty did not speak again. He did not even appear when Lin Feng and Chao Wei clashed and left everything to Riding Cloud Immortal. Compared to the arrogant Shi Chongyun, the crown prince of the other dynasty, Liang Yuan, was much more low-key and reserved. However, this did not mean that he was mediocre and had no ideas. Whether it was him or the fourth prince Liang Qian, the members of the royal family in the Great Zhou Dynasty had all gone through countless experiences and were outstanding in all aspects. They were also geniuses with shocking talent in cultivation. Hedonistic sons, good-for-nothings, they were all raised by the rich and idle. They had no chance to walk on stage. This was the tradition of the Great Zhou Dynasty. Even the current emperor of Zhou, Liang Pan, had walked this path before he succeeded to the throne. A mediocre person would not be able to sit on the throne of the Great Zhou Dynasty, much less receive the courtesy of a primordial soul cultivator like Riding Cloud Immortal. However, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. Lin Feng smiled in his heart. According to the news from Yan Mingyue, Liang Yuan had secretly cultivated many forces in the Great Zhou Dynasty. He is too gloomy and always takes the dark path. He does not have the temperament of a ruler and is narrow-minded. Lin Feng thought, if you continue to be like this, Liang Pan will have to teach you a lesson and make you change your bad habits. Although Liang Yuan was only here as a clone, he had many treasures with him. He also had many ideas about the Kunpeng treasury. As he conversed with Riding Cloud Immortal, he stared at the entrance of the treasury below. All the forces that came had brought their elites. However, Chao Wei of the Celestial Pool sect was extremely depressed. His disciple, the most outstanding disciple of the Celestial Pool sect, Song Qingyuan, had disappeared for no reason. Although he was not dead, there was no news of him. He could not sense his location at all. This made Chao Wei extremely angry. The dispute with Lin Feng was also because of this. Song Qingyuan had disappeared near the ruins of the Tempest Temple. Chao Wei had verified with Dao Master Chang Lu that Lin Feng's clone had also appeared near the ruins of the Tempest Temple. Although there was no evidence, Chao Wei intuitively felt that his disciple had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. Originally, he had already discussed with the Ice and Fire Elders and made up his mind not to clash with the Celestial Sect of Wonders for the time being, but in this situation, it still made Chao Wei's heart burn with anger, wishing that he could directly fight Lin Feng head-on. Lin Feng could feel Chao Wei's state of mind at the moment. He laughed in his heart. I will return your disciple to you, but not now. Just wait. After thinking for a while, Lin Feng raised his hand. 4 purple clouds stretched into the void and connected to the Fenshan Cliff, Qian Tian Palace, Fan Lin Residence, and Snow Wind Valley around Yujing Mountain. There were a total of 6 personal disciples under Xiao Yan and the others. They were all brought here by Lin Feng. Su Yunxing and the others were a little surprised and excited. They had vaguely guessed Lin Feng's arrangement and were extremely happy. However, they did not dare to show it. They were afraid that they would end up in vain. They all looked at Lin Feng with anxiety and expectation. Lin Feng said lightly, "You all come with us to broaden your horizons. However, with your current cultivation, it is too dangerous to enter the hidden treasure. You can't move freely. You can only be led by your master and martial uncle." Su Yunxing and the others were overjoyed and hurriedly agreed in unison. In the disciples' abode on Yujing Mountain, The other second-generation disciples looked at the illusion of light and shadow in front of them with envy. They looked at Su Yunxing and the others. This time, because Yujing Mountain was accompanying them, Lin Feng was more careful. When Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others had a conflict with the Skypool sect, Lin Feng used his dermic power to communicate with the void and broadcast it live to all the junior disciples on Yujing Mountain. Chapter 421. During the Wilderness Sea Assembly, the second-generation disciples didn't get to witness the outstanding performances of Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and the others. In the previous battle of Kunlun Mountain and this battle on the Arctic Ice Sea, Lin Feng used his mana to communicate with the void and turned it into a light and shadow illusion, presenting it to the junior disciples on Yujing Mountain. As for Lin Feng himself, he didn't show it when he fought with others. In front of these junior disciples, it was necessary to have a sense of mystery. However, the battles of Zhu Yi and the others could be directly shown to them. It was beneficial for them to understand the strength of their own sect. Of course, the premise was that they had to win, and win brilliantly. The group of juniors, including Su Yunxing, Ying Luoza, and the others, were all mesmerized. In the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, Shi Tianhao, with his golden elixir middle stage cultivation, surpassed an entire realm and killed the Yu clan's middle stage Yuanying old ancestor Yu Shiling. Just now on the Arctic Ice Sea, Zhu Yi, with his golden elixir middle stage cultivation, defeated the Heavenly Pool sect's middle stage Yuanying old ancestor Snow Peak, forcing the opponent's late stage Yuanying old ancestor to make a move. He even took out a Buddhist Saraira, but in the end, Zhu Yi used the yin and yang life and death formation diagram. This kind of achievement not only made Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao famous, but also their prestige within Xianmen Tianzong. Almost all the disciples of Xianmen sect knew that Shi Tianhao's actual age was exactly the same as his appearance. He was much younger than most of the second-generation disciples. His strength was so powerful that it was even more shocking. Everyone was fascinated, imagining that one day, they could also be like seniors like Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, who could shake the world and shock the world. As for ancestor Lin Feng, there was no need to say more. In the hearts of all the junior disciples, he was almost a legend. He was an existence above the clouds, and every disciple of Xianmen's sect respected him. Lin Feng saw their expressions, and he nodded in his heart. Yes, in the long run, the unity of the sect will become stronger and stronger. These people are the cornerstones of our celestial sect of wonders. However, it will still take a long time for them to grow up. We can't rush it. Dao Master Chang'e looked at Su Yunxing and the other disciples and raised his eyebrows. Sect Master Lin, are you going to let these disciples who are only at the qi refining stage enter the Kunpeng's hidden treasure? Let them have a chance to gain experience. An environment like the Kunpeng's hidden treasure is rare. Lin Feng smiled and said, I don't expect anything else. Hearing Lin Feng's words, some of the big shots felt tempted. They couldn't help but regret that they had only brought elites this time. They hadn't brought disciples with low cultivation bases but high potential to the Arctic Ice Sea. In the beginning, they weren't optimistic about the Kunpeng's hidden treasure. They thought it would be a fierce battle. In that case, even disciples in the Golden Elixir period might not be able to help, let alone those at the qi refining stage, unless they were like Gu Lei and Shi Xingyun. Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao were not included. These two little monsters couldn't be judged by common sense. In the end, there was no need to fight now. They had reached an agreement smoothly and everyone had a chance. Although it was inevitable that there would be disputes after entering the hidden treasure, the intensity was completely different from before. In this case, it was undoubtedly a good opportunity to bring some disciples with low cultivation to broaden their horizons and increase their experience. However, in the eyes of some people, they secretly ridiculed Lin Feng's Xianmen Tianzong. After all, they didn't have a strong foundation. The disciples of the current generation, such as Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi, were all rookies who had just learned the qi refining stage. No wonder Lin Feng had to seize every opportunity to train them. Lin Feng didn't care about what others thought and looked at him. He gathered Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others to his side and warned them, There's one thing you need to pay attention to when you enter the Kunpeng's hidden treasure. Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others straightened their faces and listened to Lin Feng's words carefully. The one that died here was a Kunpeng that dominated the world 10,000 years ago. It was extremely powerful and had reached the third level of the immortal demon soul realm, which is equivalent to the third level of the essence soul realm of the human race. Slowly, Lin Feng said, this demon entered the divine land and was eventually besieged and killed by the powerful figures of the human race. Although he died and his legacy has become the Kunpeng's hidden treasure that you are about to enter, his death doesn't mean that the Kunpeng demon race has gone extinct. There are still pure-blooded Kunpengs in Tianhuang mainland. The leader of their race has reached the immortal demon soul realm and is known as the Kunpeng Great Sage. Although it isn't one of the 10 sages of the demon race, the Kunpeng is a primordial demon with extraordinary talent and strength that far surpasses most demons of the same level. When Lin Feng said that, all the disciples reacted. Zhu Yi said in a deep voice, Master, do you mean that the Kunpeng Great Sage and his descendants might also have designs on this hidden treasure? Shi Tianhao said, Master, I remember you saying that there is only one entrance to the Kunpeng's hidden treasure. With you and these Essence Soul seniors guarding here, no matter how powerful the Kunpeng Great Sage is, he won't be able to barge in, right? Especially since this is the divine land. It's not easy for him to come here from Tianhuang mainland. Slowly, Lin Feng shook his head and said, It's not that simple. The Kunpeng that died here can be said to be their ancestor. Due to the bloodline connection, the Kunpeng demon race might have some unknown means to directly penetrate the void and open another hole in the hidden treasure space, then enter the hidden treasure. The outer layer of the hidden treasure is protected by 10,000-year mysterious ice. Even the Kunpeng Great Sage can't open it. However, among the 7 great true fires, the Golden Crow race controls the true fire of the sun, while the Phoenix race controls the true fire of the pure young. Lin Feng said, although the Golden Crow Great Sage was suppressed by me, the Golden Crow race is not extinct. The Kunpeng Great Sage might be able to get the true fire of the sun, not to mention the pure young fire of the Phoenix race. 10,000 years have passed. I believe that the Kunpeng Great Sage is always thinking about obtaining the most orthodox inheritance of his ancestor. The reason why he hasn't been able to take out the hidden treasure might be that he hasn't prepared some conditions. However, we have to be careful. Zhuge Fengling hesitated and asked, It can't be that he came at the same time as us, right? Lin Feng stared at the opened entrance of the hidden treasure below and said, It's because we opened the hidden treasure here that the hidden treasure space and the array that have been silent for 10,000 years have changed. That's why the Kunpeng Great Sage has a better chance. Previously, the hidden treasure has been closed and no aura has been exposed. We can use things like the Kunpeng Feather Scale bloodline to find its specific location in the divine land. But the Kunpeng Great Sage is on the other side of the vast infinite land, separated by the endless void. Even if this is the burial place of his ancestor, it's not easy to locate him. But now that the hidden treasure has been opened, he might have sensed it, Lin Feng said slowly with a deep look in his eyes. Maybe he has been waiting for this opportunity. Lin Feng and the others had an agreement. If the big shots didn't go down, the Kunpeng Great Sage wouldn't be polite. And once the Kunpeng Great Sage broke in, Lord Changle and the others would certainly not continue to abide by the agreement and would definitely fight their way into the hidden treasure. At that time, the situation would be even more chaotic and there would be a risk of losing control. Therefore, although it was an uncertain factor, Lin Feng had to take this situation into consideration and tell his disciples in advance so that they could be prepared. Shi Tianhao and the others nodded solemnly and kept Lin Feng's instructions in mind. All right, it's good that you know what to do. I will help you keep an eye on things here. If there are any changes, I will handle it myself. You can explore the hidden treasure with peace of mind. Speaking of this, Lin Feng suddenly smiled and sent a telepathic message to Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. After you go in, pay more attention to the doppelganger of the great Zhou dynasty's crown prince, Liang Yuan. The 2 disciples were stunned at the same time, not understanding what was going on. Zhu Yi could still control himself, but Shi Tianhao looked directly at Liang Yuan, his eyes unscrupulously sizing up the crown prince of the Dezhou dynasty. Liang Yuan and Riding Cloud Immortal both noticed Shi Tianhao's gaze. Although they felt that Shi Tianhao was very rude, they didn't take it to heart. Liang Yuan even nodded slightly to show his respect. "There's nothing special." Shi Tianhao turned his head in puzzlement and looked at Zhu. The two of them thought for a while and suddenly said in unison, "That's Saraira?" "Master, that Liang Yuan has the Great Tempest Temple's unmovable Buddha scripture inheritance?" Zhu Yi asked telepathically. If one were to ask who had the most complete collection of Buddhist scriptures after the destruction of the Great Tempest Temple, the answer was not the few Buddhist monks who had escaped from the tiger's mouth, but the one who had benefited the most from the destruction of the Buddhist sacred ground, the Great Zhou dynasty. The spoils of war that the Great Zhou dynasty obtained after the Buddhist extermination war were not just territory, human resources, material treasures and resources, but also secret Buddhist scriptures of immeasurable value. Lin Feng smiled without saying a word, and Shi Tianhao also chuckled. Jun Zining, Tunten and Zhuge Fengling suddenly shivered when they saw this scene. Who's going to be unlucky this time? After everything was arranged, Lin Feng and the others watched their selected disciples enter the entrance of the secret treasure. Dao Master Ice Sea did not have many disciples, so he chose some local cultivators of the Arctic Ice Sea to enter the Kunpeng's secret treasure. Ancestor He Tu and Dao Master Ice Sea had some friendship in the past, so he also got the opportunity to enter the secret treasure. He brought Li Yuanfang and other disciples along, just like how Lin Feng let Zhu Yi and Kang Nanhua bring Su Yunxing, Lu Xiaofeng and the others. After everyone entered the secret treasure, Lin Feng and the other big shots spread out and surrounded the entrance of the secret treasure, silently looking at the black whirlpool below. They did not clear the area. The Arctic Ice Sea cultivators who were not qualified to enter still stood on the ice outside the whirlpool, unwilling to give up and looking at the entrance of the Kunpeng's secret treasure. These people did not dare to resent Dao Master Ice Sea, but they still held a glimmer of hope. Even if they could not enter, when the people inside came out, there might be people they knew. If they gained something, they could go up and get close to them, and there might be unexpected surprises. Sect Master Lin. Lin Feng sat cross-legged in the void. Suddenly, a message came from the voice transmission crystal. It was from Song Fu of Tianmao Pavilion in Sanzhou City. Sect Master Lin, someone wants to climb Yujing Mountain. I explained to her before that you will bring Yujing Mountain to the Great Zhou Belt, but she insisted on staying in Sanzhou City to wait. Lin Feng's first reaction was that the little girl Luo Qingwu had come. How old is she? Song Fu replied, I really can't say for sure. Because she is from the demon clan, it is difficult to determine her real age in human form. However, her cultivation is at the demon king level, and she has already formed a demon infant. Chapter 422. Hearing Song Fu's answer, Lin Feng was slightly taken aback, feeling that it was somewhat unexpected. Why would a demon and a demon at the Demon King realm come to Yujing Mountain? Lin Feng asked, what's her purpose in coming to Yujing Mountain? Song Fu replied, she said that she's here to visit an old friend, but she's not willing to talk about the specifics. What race is it? The Dragon Clan, Song Fu replied with certainty. After hearing this, Lin Feng pondered for a moment, as if thinking of something, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. I understand. Please tell her that I and Yujing Mountain will return to the Kunlun Mountain range in a few days. After cutting off contact with Song Fu, Lin Feng's expression was as calm as ever, but his heart was already blooming with joy, and the flames of gossip were burning fiercely. He remembered what Yan Mingyue had said to Jieyu at the opening ceremony of the Shazhou city. What about Jieyu? He married a female primordial sky dragon in the dragon pool of our Taishu temple. Yes, that female dragon is at the Demon King realm. Before coming to Yujing Mountain, Jieyu only had the strength of a late-stage demon commander and had not formed his demon infant. Facing a wife who was already a demon king, it was inevitable that he would be under great pressure. From the fact that Jie Feng would rather be Lin Feng's mount on Jade Capital Mountain than return to the Void Temple no matter what, in the life of husband and wife, This guy definitely doesn't have the discipline of the husband, maybe he has even suffered domestic violence. As for whether or not he has SM, that's not clear. Now, according to the situation reported by Song Fu, there was a 90% chance that the female dragon had come looking for her husband. TSK, just thinking about it makes me feel that the scene is beautiful. Lin Feng thought with some mischief in his heart, but now that Jieyu has formed his demon infant and advanced to demon king, maybe he has some confidence? I just don't know if the female dragon's strength has increased. If she has advanced to mid-stage demon king, then I'm afraid Jieyu will still suffer. As Lin Feng let his imagination run wild, he constantly paid attention to the movements of Shi Tianhao and the others in the Kunpeng treasury. He, Chao Wei, and Dao Master Chang Lu had all left a Dharma power mark on their disciples to see what was happening inside the treasure. However, according to Lin Feng's deduction, it should only be applicable to the periphery of the secret treasure. The deeper they went, the greater the interference of the demonic power left by the giant bird would be. After they entered the core of the secret treasure, the marks left by the big shots could only be used as space coordinates and could not allow them to see the specific images clearly. However, just the periphery of the treasure was already breathtaking. After Shi Tianhao and the others entered the Kunpeng's secret treasure, what appeared in front of them was a pure black sea with golden light. The color of the seawater was similar to that of the black whirlpool outside. Golden light surged on the surface of the sea, and countless spell symbols were rolling and flying in the golden light, illuminating the entire world, except for the black sea below, into a golden light. In this small world, the entire sky was pure gold, and the faint roars of beasts could be heard in the air. It was shocking, as if they had arrived in an ancient world. In the sky and on the sea, there were raging storms. Countless tornadoes rolled up the sea and went straight to the ninth heaven, like pillars connecting the golden sky and the black sea. In the storm, there were dazzling flashes of lightning, like dancing silver dragons. On the vast sea, tornadoes, mixed with thunder, lightning, and seawater, rose to the sky one after another, tearing the entire space into pieces and instantly turning this part of the world into a hell. The sea was also constantly surging, with huge waves as high as mountains. One after another, they rolled up high and fell heavily, and then stirred up more violent waves. In the face of the power of heaven and earth, the cultivators who entered the treasure all felt frightened. Even if they were cultivators at the Yuanying stage, once they were involved in it, they would end up in a situation where they could not decide their own fate. Lin Feng and the others saw this scene outside the treasure and felt the changes of power inside. They immediately gave instructions to their disciples. The real treasure is in the Black Sea. No matter how violent the wind and waves are, try your best to dive into the sea. All the big shots made the same judgment. Under their guidance, Shi Tianhao and the others rushed down to the sea without any hesitation, carefully avoiding the storms one after another, and plunged into the dark water. The surface of the sea was surging like a tsunami, but when they stabilized their bodies, withstood the impact of the waves, and dived into the deep sea, the sea became calm, far less violent than it was above. However, such a simple diving process had already made everyone miserable. As the main force of the breakthrough, the cultivators at the Yuanying stage all looked exhausted, and their magic power was seriously consumed. Some of the weaker cultivators at the Yuanying stage didn't even have the spare energy to protect the cultivators at the Golden Elixir stage and the Foundation Establishment stage who were accompanying them. In the face of such waves and storms, the cultivators at the Golden Elixir stage and the Foundation Establishment stage didn't have much ability to protect themselves. The cultivators below the Golden Elixir stage were instantly swallowed by the black waves and lost their lives. The cultivators at the Golden Elixir stage could barely hold on and wait for others to rescue them, but if no one came to rescue them, they would be buried in the sea in a moment. The first time they closed the door, there were casualties. Except for the old friends of the dead and injured who felt sad, most of the people became more spirited, and their desire for the secret treasure of the Kunpeng buried here increased. The value of the secret treasure that was protected by such a powerful restriction was naturally not ordinary. The risk and reward were completely proportional. Behind the layers of danger was an amazing treasure. Jun Zining, Zhuge Fengling, Su Yunxing, Ingleja, Li Xingfe, Lu Xiaofeng, the little fatty who followed Lu Xiaofeng, and the youngest Xiao Huan were directly swallowed into the stomachs of the black dragon Jieyu and King Kuei-Nyo to protect them. If they stayed outside and only relied on their magic power to protect themselves, they might be swept away by the wind and waves if they were not careful. With their cultivation, they would die instantly without any chance of rescue. Even Yu Hongyan, out of caution, Jieyu also swallowed her into his stomach. The red-haired girl didn't object. She was brave and fearless, but that was only because she was not afraid of death. It didn't mean that she would always challenge the difficulty and want to die. Especially if she tried to be brave, not only would it be her own problem, but it would also cause trouble for others. In this case, it was even more impossible for her to resist for the sake of her reputation. However, looking at her fellow disciples Shi Tianhao and Zhu Yi who were advancing in the wind and waves with Jieyu, King Kuei-Nyo, Miao Shihao, Kong Nanhua, and other Yuanying stage powerhouses, the red-haired girl secretly made up her mind that after returning to the mountain this time, she must cultivate hard, form her gold core as soon as possible, and advance to the golden elixir period. After entering the deep sea, there were no stormy waves, and the seawater was much calmer. Golden elixir period cultivators could come out and move around by themselves. However, as the diving depth continued to increase, the surrounding seawater pressure also increased. Out of caution, people with cultivation below the golden elixir period were still properly protected. Other than the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, only the natives of the Arctic Ice Sea had foundation establishment and qi condensation cultivators. After experiencing the tsunami and storm just now, no one dared to be careless in the slightest, and they properly protected their own disciples. In the deep sea, the only cultivator with cultivation below the golden elixir period was Yu Hongyan. On one hand, she used her magic power to resist the pressure brought by the seawater, and on the other hand, she had to take care of other things. For example, fighting against the schools of strange demonic fish that existed in the Black Sea. Such a cruel sea did not cause the extinction of life, and the life that could survive and reproduce here were extremely fierce. Some were only equivalent to the demon general with strength equivalent to the foundation establishment stage, and they had not even formed their demon cores, but they could move freely in the deep sea. Nearly 10,000 years of evolution had allowed them to adapt to the environment here. This small world was evolved from the remains of Kunping after its death. Like other small and medium-sized worlds, there was no void tribulation thunder. Therefore, the strongest demonic fish were only late-stage demon commanders, but they were like fish in water in the sea. Even if Yuanying cultivators fought against them, it would not be easy for them to resist the pressure of the seawater while fighting against them. In particular, there were all kinds of demonic fish. They formed schools, and their numbers were huge, making them even more difficult to deal with. The sea was extremely vast. Even if Yuanying cultivators flew through it, they would not be able to reach the end. Xianmen Tianzong and the other disciples walked at the front. Before entering this world, Lin Feng gave them most of the remaining Kunping bloodline in his possession, and the Kunping scales were also given to his disciples. Guided by these things, Shi Tianhao, Zhu Yi, and the others moved forward. Most of the people who entered the secret treasure with them simply followed behind Shi Tianhao and the others, using them as guiding lights. Shi Tianhao and the others did not pay attention to them and just kept moving forward. After moving forward for a long time, everyone felt that there was a huge force surging in a huge trench in the depths of the sea. That must be the core of the Kunping secret treasure. The group broke through the siege of the underwater monsters and quickly rushed into the deep trench. At the bottom of the trench, there was a huge gap, from which a dazzling golden light could be seen. It was an extremely huge circular spiritual formation, and only a part of it could be seen through the gap. After going through the gap, they found that there was another world inside, and the whole spiritual formation was revealed in front of them. "Let's go!" Zhu Yi shouted in a low voice, and waved his hand to shoot out a dark blue bloodline, which was the Kunping bloodline he had obtained from Lin Feng. The dark blue bloodline fell on the golden spiritual formation, and the spiritual formation, which was already shining with golden light, burst out an amazing brilliance, which was countless times more dazzling than usual. Even the ancestors of the Yuanying stage did not dare to look directly at this golden light and could only explore it with their soul consciousness. Then, they felt a burning pain in their soul consciousness. In the vast golden light, there was a vague shadow of a huge Kunpeng. Its two eyes were like two suns, staring at the people in front of it, and the majestic willpower made everyone present feel a burst of fear. The Kunpeng seemed to be floating in the universe, and when it sank, it became a fish. Its body was black, and it was incomparably huge, with a length of thousands of miles. When it floated, it became a bird, with cyan feathers, a golden beak, and white feathers on the top of its head. When it spread its wings, it was thousands of miles wide. The shadow flashed, and as the golden light shook, a huge rock rose from the center of the circular spiritual formation, and there was a cave entrance on the rock. The secret treasure must be there. Everyone's eyes suddenly turned red, and they began to rush towards the cave entrance. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.